Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Watch the Obsession live stream and chat. And tonight we're talking about the Idaho 4 tragedy. And look, it's my lip gloss. It's true crime and makeup. You want to learn how to do makeup? I'm just kidding. I love those channels. So we're going to be talking about the Idaho 4 tragedy, and specifically, we're going to be talking about the Dateline that aired. I think it's about a week ago at this point. But more specifically, we're going to be talking about the reaction to, well, it's actually a couple things that just kind of changed this evening, but it's a good thing because it's more information for you. So we're going to be talking about the reaction of some University Idaho students to the Dateline and to what was said in the Dateline and what was said in the Dateline, and also this idea that there's this gag order out there, and I'll get to that in just a little bit, okay? And then also the response to some other buzzes that have been going on about the Idaho 4 tragedy, and specifically some people that have gone on to other channels claiming to know things about the case. And those channels are Truth and Transparency, Lana's channel, hi Lana, and Drunk Turkey Show. So we're going to be talking about, well, WSU Kim, which I've already sort of given the response of the two University of Idaho students who are in Ethan Chapin's fraternity, who are good friends of Ethan Chapin. I'm going to go into that whole story in just a moment here too. If you're not familiar with how I know these or how I connected with these guys, I've come to know them. I've been communicating with them for 6 months now. And more importantly, what they had to say about this guy, Dave. And it might surprise you. It surprised me, to be honest. I think it's really interesting, and I think it lends some direction in knowing where we should go as far as who or what to believe or not. All right, so just check this out real quick. Let's see, let me change that first. I hope everyone's doing really good tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here.
I'll cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Their means of death don't match. They don't match. He doesn't have to go up the steps.
Autopsies on the 4 students found each had multiple stab wounds. Some had defensive wounds, showing they fought with the attacker, and there was no sexual assault.
Her father mentioned to me that he had just went and replaced the lock the weekend before.
County Coroner Kathy Mabbutt is describing the murders as personal.
The arrest of 28-year-old Brian Kohberger rocked the nation.
Kohberger studied criminal justice at an advanced level, having gotten a master's from DeSales University in Pennsylvania in 2022. According to the school there, he appears to once have posted on Reddit asking for volunteers for a research project where he was studying the criminal mind.
This video will be discussing the Dateline episode on the Idaho 4 tragedy, along with other forms of the mainstream news media narrative about this horrific crime. We will be examining what was said in the Dateline and what is true and what is not true based on what we know, and specifically what this channel knows to be true or not true based on a connection that we have with 2 University of Idaho students who were good friends of Ethan Chapin's. So why is Dateline, much like several cable news channels that have always held themselves to a high journalistic standard, why are these outlets now, in regards to the Idaho 4 tragedy, citing their sources with literally no additional details about these sources? It makes it very difficult to know what is true and what is untrue. I understand that there is a gag order in place and that people bound by that gag order are not able to say anything under the penalty of the court. And even people that are not bound by the gag order are hesitant to speak because they know there's a gag order out there and they aren't sure what that means, understandably. As this channel knows, as I know, from the over 6-month relationship I've had as a result of this tragedy with 2 students from the University of Idaho, who are friends with Ethan Chapin and have wanted very much to get their message out there. The message that they say is truth, and I believe them. But like other University of Idaho students, it seems they are afraid to speak openly at this time. As far as I'm aware, the only student from the University of Idaho that has spoken out with their name and voice changed is a guy that is referred to as Dave, who spoke out recently through the channel Truth and Transparency. It is my opinion that this channel has done a decent job allowing these students to speak in a way through the channel while keeping their identities concealed. And I see that other channels like Truth and Transparency are doing the same, while still giving our channel viewers enough detail to understand the perspective of the students, our source, we could say, which in my opinion, or at least this is my intention, gives the sources a degree of credibility. Although I am a huge fan of Dateline and several journalists on major news networks, I personally have been really confused and at times disappointed by the reporting they are doing, just citing nameless sources, sources we know absolutely nothing about. And then these outlets make assertions about this mysterious case as though we should just believe them. I found it interesting that Dateline interviewed several well-trained, retired for the most part, criminal profilers who said what we in the true crime community have been able to determine. For example, Brian Kohberger's psychological profile. As a professional with a background in behavioral psychology, I agree with their assessment for the most part. It just seemed that Dateline spent a lot of time talking about the most basic elements of the psychological profile of somebody who could commit this crime and Brian Kohberger. Essentially, the profile described for us is one of a lonely guy who was rejected in the past and deeply internalized that rejection. With fantasies increasing in severity over the years, Kohberger then entertained and began to actualize violence and behavior that invaded on another person's privacy, space, and well-being. Ultimately and essentially finding targets of his wrath who in his mind represented those people who were likely women and likely among the first women who rejected him. That rejection was so unacceptable to him. It hurt him so deeply, a pain that Kohberger could never let go of. And rather than letting go of it, he allowed that injury to fester and worsen deep within his being. Okay, so that was just a little bit of an intro, some additional information I had for you. Just let me shut that down there. And stop screen. Okay. All right. Okay, so I just got a shower. My hair's still a little bit wet here. So welcome everyone who's here. It's great to see you. And okay, so let me just give you a little bit of a background. It's understandable if you're not familiar with the channel, if you haven't heard me speak about this, that you wouldn't know it. So there are two students from the University of Idaho who I've been speaking to rather consistently during certain periods, like every day, like for, a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there, a couple times a day. It depends on what's going on and what they've decided they want to do as far as getting a message out. I had been talking to them. Now, I reached out to 4 people 10 days after this happened in the University of Idaho, trying to get some information, figuring out what's going on. I hadn't even made videos yet. I wasn't looking to make, find people for content. I just was like, what the heck is going on? I didn't know if I was going to make content about it because it was just so horrible. And, you can only take so much, right? So 2 people did respond, and one of them is one of the 2 students who I do correspond with, and the other one is a friend of his. So that's the background on that. Now, what prompted them to eventually want to speak, really, but it ended up being getting a message out there due to the gag order, which they are not legally bound by. However, and I'm sorry if you've already heard me explain this before, the way that they had described it to me is that within their fraternity and within the university and just the community as a whole, or, sometimes within their families, or, for example, these two guys are in communication all the time with the Chapins, and I've heard them talk about two other victims' families. I don't know how often they're in communication with them honestly, but they feel like there's something they need to respect between themselves and the victim's parents. You know what I mean? So they do not feel at all at liberty to get on a camera and come on to this channel or any other channel and speak. They certainly will someday. They are very eager to. But now what I prior to about 2 weeks ago, this channel, it was the only situation that I knew of where this was happening. And I thought that was kind of weird. I was like, don't any of the other students want to speak up about this? Aren't they finding ways to, voice what it is they know or the questions they have or the concerns they have? But I think it was about 2 weeks ago, this person who's being called Dave has surfaced. And I know that Brian, yes, Drew, I think I'm going to get his name wrong. Drunk Turkey Show, and I'm sorry if I got his name wrong, spoke with him, and so did Lana from Truth and Transparency. So eventually he was on Truth and Transparency. You guys may have seen that. Voice was changed, name was changed. I think that's still how it is, unless something became different over the course of this week, and I don't know about it, which might be the case because I was at my day job and doing my day job thing. But I think that's the case. He's still remaining anonymous for very similar reasons to that of the two students that I speak with. So now I want to play you just a little excerpt here from the Drunk Turkey Show. And he is going to talk about this guy, Dave. And I hope that's cool, Drunk Turkey Show. I sent him a little message earlier. I saw that your response. So I hope it's okay that I'm playing this. Actually, what he has to say is about Dave is very much like what I have been saying about these two guys, our two frat boys, okay? Because I think that all three of them probably feel the same way. Let's see, where is... Hope everyone's doing well. Everyone should have a long weekend this weekend. I hope you guys are enjoying and you're being good to yourselves, taking time for yourself and your family and your friends and whatever makes you happy. All right. Just as a little FYI, tomorrow night there's going to be a live stream on the Watts case, specifically the family dynamics and Bella. I'm doing a series about Bella's story. This is probably going to be the only live stream, just so you know. Yeah. Okay, here we go. No, now I have to bring into the stream. All right. Present. I don't know if I'm changing the channel name or not. I've been thinking about changing the channel name, and because I don't do just the Watts case, so I kind of want to, but then some people who are experts in branding have talked to me about, oh, that's like a branding mistake. I'm really not sure what to do. If you guys have an opinion on that, please let me know because I'd love to hear it. All right. Okay, here we go. Hey, Susan, how you doing?
Interview with Brian and Stephen Dan of Publicly Buzz so that they can formulate their own opinion about the...
I'm just going to play this kind of from the beginning for a little bit, okay? So this is the Drunk Turkey Show. Everybody, if you're not subscribed, definitely go subscribe. I really like their content. They and he does a really great job.
Is in a fraternity in the Moscow area on Greek Row. Last night we had a podcast with myself.
Gotta go all the way back. Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. Today we're going to be talking about an interview I had with a man that I'm going to call Dave. He's a student at the University of Idaho, and he is in a fraternity in the Moscow area on Greek Row. Last night we had a podcast with myself, Buzz, and Brian of the Opinionated Idiot, And we kind of dove deep into some of the things that Dave had told us or told me. And, I've shared that with Jaime and Blue. I have also shared that interview with Brian and Stephen Dan of Publicly Buzz so that they can formulate their own opinion about about what Dave is saying and find if he is as credible as I think he is. But before we get started, I do want to remind you guys of our channel partnership with DataSeal. If you're interested in protecting your privacy, your name, your phone number, your address, religious preference, your voting preference, I know that's important to a lot of you guys. Check out DataSeal. Links in the description. You get 5% off. They do a wonderful job of getting all of that personal information scrubbed off the interwebs. So check them out. You get a discount. Link is in below and the description and pinned in the comment section. So earlier this week, we had an interview with WSU Mom Kim, and we were trying to clear some of the air with her as far as some of the things that she had been accused of saying, some of the things that she had said, and what was speculation, what was opinion on her part based on the information that she was gathered, and what was actually told to her. And I highly recommend you go watch that. But who was watching that video was a young man from the Moscow area who is a fraternity student in the University of Idaho. And he had a lot of the similar questions and some more firsthand knowledge information about the situation. He wants to remain anonymous. His name is not Dave, so I have not yet, he has agreed to come on the panel, just not yet. I believe Lena from Truth and Transparency has talked to him as well. He's told me that, and I think he may come on her panel first and then on ours later on the week. I'm not pressuring him to do any of those things. I have vetted him to the extent that I possibly can to the point where I do know that he is a fraternity student at the University of Idaho and that he resides very.
I do just want to say along this line of vetting, and I'm not saying that he didn't thoroughly vet this person that we're calling Dave. I do want to say the two students that this channel is in contact with were, they are as vetted as you could possibly be. I've talked to them on, what do we use, Google Meets, like several times. I had already, checked into all the information through official means. So I just wanted to state that for anybody who's wondering.
Close to the 1122 King Road residence. And so without further ado, I'll get into it. But before I start, I do want to say there's going to be some things that Dave has told me that maybe a lot of you guys might find, to not agree with. I just want to say that, he does have firsthand knowledge. He does seem very credible to me. And the reason why he's coming forward is, people there in that town or students in that town are acting as if nothing changed. And there's still people that are passing away. Maybe not to the effect that, Xana, Ethan, Maddie, and Kaylee were, not in the same method, but they're still passing away, whether it's overdose or alcohol related, things of that nature. And he feels that even though there was a situation that happened there on 1122 King Road, the students there act as if nothing happened. And there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. When Kim came out and said that her daughter was aware by 10 o'clock in the morning, he came out forward and said, so was I. He personally got notified within group chats that he had with other fraternity students by about 9:30 that morning. He stated that information wasn't firsthand. It wasn't coming from one of the victims in the house or anything like that. However, it was coming from some of the girlfriends of his fraternity brothers who were Pi Phis.
Okay, so I'm going to stop at this point because I want to tell you a few things. Let me just get my phone out so I get this right here. Where did my phone? Just one second. I'm going to be talking, but I need to go grab my phone because I just want to check my text messages to make sure I get it right. Oh, my phone just fell. That's where it is. Hello, fallen phone. Okay. All right. Okay, so up until this point, let me share the screen so people know that I'm talking about the Drunk Turkey Show. Hi, okay. So up until this point, this is what the two guys from the University of Idaho, who were Ethan Chapin's friends and fraternity brothers, had to say. Now, they just mentioned the Washington State University mom, Kim. So Kim is in the chat now. Or Evabelle says that she's Kim, and I believe you. When I hear your voice, I'll know if you do want to come up, or if you want to send me an email or something like that. That's okay too. However you want to do that. Evabelle or Kim, that's great, and I'm glad you're here. Welcome. So and I'm not going to change what I have to say because if Kim is here, because I've told the story before, and it just is what it is. Now, I was just thinking about this while I was in the shower that I just took. See. And this is a truth. Okay, so the two fraternity brothers from the University of Idaho, we had been corresponding for months. And they had toyed around with the idea of wanting to say something, but there was this whole gentleman's agreement kind of thing going on. Yes, thank you, Jeannie. Oh, let's see. Yeah, no, I heard about that too. I'm going to post that. I'm not sure which one you were talking about, Jeannie. Do you want to come up in a little bit, Kim? Or would you rather just do like chat? Jeannie, if you could let me know, that would be awesome. So okay. Okay, so the thing that prompted them to eventually want to speak out, and I had said this before, is that so Kim went on Truth and Transparency and Drunk Turkey Show. I think it was the same two shows, right? And I was barely even aware of it just because I was busy, not because I don't watch them, not because what she says isn't important or anything like that. I was just like busy. I'm a behavioral therapist. My day job is going crazy. And they were really like upset by that. They still categorically oppose what was said by Kim, and specifically what they really oppose is this whole timing, and Kim saying that she learned through her children, and if you do come up, you can tell your story, that students found out hours earlier than when we know the police were first notified, which was 11:57 a.m. So that's that 8-hour gap that everybody is always up in arms about, because it is rather strange. And in my own mind, I still have trouble with it. And I'm hoping that when this case goes to trial, it's going to be explained. I don't think the roommates have anything malicious or nefarious to do with what happened, but it's bizarre, right? It's just bizarre. Thank you, Jeannie. So yeah, so what they were specifically opposed to, that Kim said, was that students had found out earlier in the morning at let's say 9:30, something like that. I don't know what the exact time was. Well, there were actually other things too. But that was something that was a big issue that they contended. So now how I feel about that is, I believe the two fraternity brothers that I've been talking to for 6 months, because I believe them, because I have created this relationship with them, and they have proven themselves to be nothing but authentic and truthful and forthcoming, and really just for shooting straight from the hip. I mean, it's just, I feel as though we have a very candid and just open dialogue going. I tell them exactly what I think. They tell me what they think. There's only been one occasion where they didn't like something I said. Sometimes they want me to say something and I won't say it, and I stick to it, and they don't really like it, but because it doesn't represent then their whole truth. But I have to have my boundaries as the channel creator, right? So anyhow, so at this point, I believe them that it's not true that students found out much earlier, prior to the 911 call being made. Now, what's interesting is he just said Drunk Turkey Show, that this guy Dave, who's come forward, apparently corroborates what Kim said, and he also says that he received text earlier in that morning. I think he just mentioned the time 9:30. Now, last I knew, the only thing we had to go by was, Kim's word. And again, and it's not that I don't believe Kim or anything like that. And I've said this from the beginning. It's that I believe these two guys who I've grown to trust over the past 6 months. So, and I hope you understand that, Kim, too. I've got really nothing but respect for you, but that's just, you know, it's not that I don't trust you. I just have grown to trust them, right? So that's just the perspective I come from. And I guess all of you who are watching right now would have a different perspective because you don't have that, you know, personal relationship with these two fraternity brothers of Ethan. So I'm wondering what you guys all think of that. I'd actually be very interested to hear that. Let's see. Let me just catch up on chat for a minute in case anything's going on here. Hey, Drunk Turkey Show, how are you doing? I hope you don't mind. I was playing a little bit of your video just to give context to what we're talking about here. I don't know if you've been watching or not. And then the next piece of information I wanted to talk about has directly to do with what I just played. And I think you're actually going to like it. I was kind of surprised to hear it, but good. Let's see. Oh, you don't have to show your face, Kim. That's okay. Okay, good. Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah. I wasn't intending on playing the video the way I just did until I was just listening to it before I got in the shower, short time ago. And it was really interesting to me that what you said about this guy that we're calling Dave was exactly what I've said and what all the disclaimers I've had to put forth about the two fraternity brothers that I've been talking with. So, you know, like I get that. And I just wanted to play that so people could see how that's working. Hi, Amanda Frank. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for subscribing. That's awesome. Cool. Okay, let's see. Rosie asks, oh, thank you, Kim. I'm going to bring you up in just a moment here if you want to come up. Thank you for offering. So let's see. Oops. Rosie says, why did Kelly's parents say they heard all kinds of things, but all of it equaling Kelly wasn't alive since the morning? Could you clarify that question? I think maybe is what you're saying that I know that Kelly's parents were upset because they weren't they felt they weren't notified quickly enough, which I certainly understand. I mean, my God, could you imagine that anxiety? I mean, when you hear Mrs. Well, either of them, but especially for me, when Mrs. Gonsalves talks about how that day went down, and then, you know, seeing the police car driving up, and she just went into a state of shock and couldn't even talk, and it just breaks my heart every time. I mean, I can't even imagine. And I hope we find justice for those victims and peace for the families, because this is a horrific tragedy. I think everyone can agree on that. Oh, goodness. Let's see. Hello, legal-minded friends of Karen Cole. I like that name. Oh, my name is very close to yours. It's interesting. Yeah, so yeah, Jeannie was just echoing what I was saying, and thank you. I hope you guys can all understand. She said, I trust your judgment. You have a relationship built over time with those two guys. And I don't have that relationship with Kim, so that's why I trust them. So yeah, I just, you know, I really am interested in justice for the victims and peace for the families, and everything that we do here, that is the end goal, along with understanding the relationship dynamics and indicators of when people or families are in crisis. And when you see something, say something kind of thing, because I'm a behavioral therapist and I've been working in that with that sort of thing, and I've been trying to find ways to get that message out to people to save lives and to save quality of lives most of my adult life. So those are kind of the two things we do here, and that's like all that we do. So you know, I've never had a case that I've covered where I've had that kind of like extra bonus of actually having a relationship where I've built trust with somebody who is representing, you know, a certain narrative or a certain, I don't want to say side of it, you know. That's, I guess, kind of what that might be. Now, let's see. Let me just check chat here really quick. Oh, this is a good question, Lisa R. Lisa R asks, so everyone here believes Kohberger is hands down guilty, no doubts whatsoever. I personally, I'll answer for myself, and I'd love if you guys all want to answer that question. I think that's a great question. I certainly, it's hard to say ever that to eliminate all possible doubt. But I feel just what we've seen so far, I feel pretty darn convinced. Something certainly could change that, but do you think differently? What do you think, Lisa? So Rosie then clarified the question that she asked earlier and says, she, talking about Mrs. Gonzalez, received messages from people who knew Kaylee had perished, I think, since the morning. First hearing Kaylee was, okay. So I think the source that came from was when that channel, Olivia something or other, interviewed the parents or spoke with the parents, did like a little documentary. And I think that is when that time reference was mentioned. And I believe, and I'd have to watch it again, and this is a good question, but when she was, kind of pressed to sort of nail down a time frame, she ended up saying between 11 and 11:30, which to me isn't all that different. And maybe it is, but maybe it's not. I don't know. I have to look more into that. Isn't all that different than 11:57? If we're talking about your recollection on the morning where you say you went into a state of shock when one of your children was murdered. So I think I know what you're talking about, Rosie. And when I first kind of heard that buzzing going around, I looked into it. But when I fully looked into it, I arrived at the conclusion that I just shared with you. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Let me just see if it's, just make sure it's not a moderator, someone texted. Cool. Thank you, moderators. You're all wonderful. You're all wonderful. Thank you to everyone who's here. Yeah, so to Lisa, Jeannie says that she believes there's a few here that don't think that he acted alone. Anaphylaxis. Oh, I'm so happy to see you. I tagged you. I'm really happy to see you. Anaphylaxis here is a friend of the channel. She's former law enforcement, always has a really great perspective to share. So anytime you want to chime in, Anaphylaxis, I would love to hear from you, and I hope you're doing well, sweetheart. Wow, Gregory, who's a great thinker. I'm sort of sorry to hear this, Gregory, because I love to hear your theorizing and your ideas and your chain of logic. Gregory just says that he's just going to let the trial do the talking, which is ultimately how it's going to be. I mean, we are in an absolute information void here, right? Because of this gag order, which I need to get back to here to talk about. So I think that's one reason why in this case there's so much speculation. In my opinion, the speculation got like a little bit too crazy, like out of my comfort zone. We're actually stopped talking about the case for a little while because I was like, ain't nothing new to see here. I don't want to be part of the just conjecture. And I'm not saying any channel that was covering it was that. I didn't have anything that I want to talk about at the time that I didn't think was just contributing to the possibility of just like kind of baseless speculation. But then eventually I did. So. Ara says, I never thought he acted alone. Something tells me he had outside help. Do you have any theories about who that could be? And if you don't, that's okay too. I'm just interested to know. Hey, Agape Love. So Agape Love asks, does anyone know if Jack D called Kaylee's parents that day before law enforcement arrived? Oh, that's a good question. You always have good questions. So on the day of the murders, before the law enforcement came up to her house in the car, and then she knew it was real. And right, okay. Yeah, as far as I know, no. And that was something that I was looking into a while back and just kind of lost track of it because there's been so much going on with this. And isn't that curious, right? Because he would have had to have known before then. So why in the world did he not call Kaylee's parents? I forgot that question lingers out there, Agape Love, and that's a really good question. Does anyone have an answer to that? So Jack D absolutely had to have known. In fact, I think it's confirmed that he did know, but I don't have the receipts on that. If somebody knows I'm right or wrong, let me know. Before, so Kaylee's mom says they found out at 4 or 5 p.m. Right? Is that right? There's a lot of details, and I can't, after covering the Murdaugh case in between, the details are just floating around my mind a little bit, but it's later in the day. So Jack knew well before Kaylee's parents did. Why did he not call the parents? It's a great question. Yeah. So Eva Beller Kim says, I think we all want the same thing. It's great these young men have you to reach out to. It takes a village. You know what? And I do agree with that very much, Kim. So the next thing I want to talk about is I have a few different points, and I might save the last two for Monday night. I'm doing a live stream tonight, tomorrow night, but that's the last case. And then I'm going to do one Monday night, and it was to be determined. But I want to get word out a little bit more, get some more people here, because I know that these guys want to get the message out, and they want to get the message out. So I just kind of plan this on off the cuff. So, but this is what they had to say about this guy who is known as Dave, who talked to Drunk Turkey Show. And was he eventually on your show? I think he was, right? Or if anyone else knows, you can let me know. I think he was eventually. I know that he was on Truth and Transparency because I did hear that. I'll get back to that, Rochelle. Yeah, that's a good question too. She asked if I think that Brian Kohberger is a DoorDash driver. I mean, the answer is I don't know, but I have some ideas, some facts, and then some theories I'd like to lay out and see what you guys think. Does anyone think that Brian Kohberger was a DoorDash guy? You know what? I'm going to make that a survey. Oh, wait, no. There it is. Okay. Let me pop this up really quick, or a poll. So, let's see. I'm sorry, I'm a bad multitasker. Do you think BK was the... New computer, I can't type on it. DoorDash driver. Restart your computer? No way, man. Dude, if my computer does something funky, just hold on. I just got to notice. Do you think BK was a DoorDash driver? So BK being Brian Kohberger, all right? I'm going to pop that into the community. Go ahead and answer that poll. So the food that she ordered was from the Jack in the Box. Oh, I did see... Drunk Turkey Show was Drunk Turkey Show. This is another thing that I really like that Drunk Turkey Show has covered recently. So if you guys are not already subscribers, go check it out. I think you'll like it. I don't know. When I first started watching it, I was like, not sure. I think I said a couple times that I didn't like your style of vetting people. And that's how I felt at the time. But I've changed my mind. You two are starting to earn my trust. My mind has shifted. We're going to say that. I'm a tough cookie. So, shifted substantially. Okay. So Xana ordered DoorDash. She ordered food from the Jack in the Box, which is in Pullman, right near where Brian Kohberger lives. And man, I wish that I had time to finish watching your video because I might then know more about it. Drunk Turkey Show actually turned us on to a really small channel. Might be a lot bigger now. I think the guy only had like 400 and something subscribers when you mentioned it. But he went to that Jack in the Box. Gosh, this story gets really deep and convoluted. He went to that Jack in the Box, and at the time, what he believed is that the driver was a female because some believed, and I don't even know where this originates, to be honest, that Emma Bailey was the driver. Now, Emma Bailey, there's a whole substantial story with her as well. I'm not sure if we're going to get into it right now or not. I don't know. So if you don't know who she is, just hold on tight, okay? But during the process of talking to the employees there, he changed his mind. And on Drunk Turkey Show, you were commenting that, it was really cool that he was able to go in with one perspective, but then, get some certain facts or evidence and change his mind. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Let's all do that, guys. When you get the facts, when you get the evidence, if you're wrong, it's all good. I always say I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. And I might be wrong now. It's hard to know for sure unless you know for sure. Okay. Well, this is a good thought. So Dia says, no, he went over to their house to talk to them. So I believe she's commenting on the question of, did Jack D call Kelly's parents? Do we know that to be true? I personally don't remember any mentioning of that, but I've been wrong before, be wrong again, could be not sure now, Okay, so Kim says, according to Kelly's parents could not reach him. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, so legal-minded friends of Karen Cole says, we have not heard anything from the defense yet. Right, they're standing silent. And from what has been disclosed, very suspicious behavior if he is not the guy. Kohberger, I fully 100% agree with you. Like wearing the gloves, and which ties into the Dateline. There's a lot to talk about. I guess I should be talking about this case more because there is a lot to talk about. Hello to everybody who came in. So Rosie is saying, no, it was a woman allegedly. Oh gosh. Where is that source that the driver was a woman and believed to be of a Stone? Are you still here, Drunk Turkey Show? Do you know where that came from originally, or does anyone else? Agape Love, is this true? Says the guy who was the DoorDash driver was fired for eating people's food. I just started ordering Instacart and I worry about that. Mrs. B says, I think it was a woman. Tony thinks it's a female. Gosh. Well, you know what you guys have to do? You have to go to Drunk Turkey Show and watch the video that he put out recently on this topic. I don't remember all the details of it, but I thought it was pretty logical, rational, and I believed it. Hi, Mrs. B. How are you doing? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to pin that, but that's right, Rosie. That's what I've heard about Emma Stone, too. Emma Stone. Actress. Oh my gosh, someone I work with and I were just talking about Emma Stone the other day. Emma Bailey. Okay, so Agape Love clarifies things for us. That's right. Says that JLR said it and then backstep and now says it's a guy. Okay, so I feel as though from everything that I've heard and what people do know, and what we do now know is just conjecture and rumor, I feel pretty confident that we do know it's a male. I heard the DoorDash driver is NK. Could be. She's off the grid. Oh my gosh. Let's see. And then Isabel says, do you want to come up, Kim? This could be a good time to come up. Oh, this is what I wanted to say. I'm sorry. Get to the point, Kel. With the two fraternity brothers, from the University of Idaho who were in Ethan Chapin's fraternity and were very good friends of Ethan Chapin. And this is all vetted Kelly style and confirmed, and I've talked to them a million times, and who their identity is confirmed. Confirmed. So they said this guy that we know is Dave, who's been talking to at least Drunk Turkey Show and has been on Truth and Transparency. They said they have not spoken to him, okay, but they said he is not in their fraternity, but they do believe that he is in a fraternity, and they said 99% sure that they know who it is and that he is in fact legitimate, and they believe that what he has said is probably relatively legitimate. They said they don't know him well enough to know if he would have any other ulterior motive or, his level of mental stability, if he's someone that would lie. And I'm not saying he is or anything like that. And this is just what they told me in the message, that they wish they could come on here or somewhere and say themselves, for all the reasons we've already discussed, they feel they cannot. Yeah, so they said that he's not in Ethan Chapin. He's not Sekai. He's not in their fraternity. They are 99% sure that they know who he is, but they have not talked to him about this. Like, hey, are you the guy that was on Drunk Turkey Show? Or that they think he's probably, in the ballpark of the truth. The one fact that they categorically dispute, like they did with Washington State University Kim, is the fact that he says also that he got messages earlier in the morning, like a couple hours earlier at least, that let him know that something terrible happened at the 1122 King Road property at the very least. I think there was, some confusion that was described. It was a shooting, or it was an overdose. It was not a stabbing at first, but that he got word that something terrible happened much earlier, that people perished, and that he actually learned what did happen earlier than when the police were called. So these two students, fraternity brothers of Ethan Chapin from the University of Idaho, when Kim said that, they were like, bullshit. And now that this person known as Dave is saying that, although they say they believe that he is a guy from University of Idaho and he is in fraternity, it's not theirs, but they think they know who it is, they say bullshit on that. So give me a second here. So let me just get this one thought out, and I'm going to give you the link. I'll just post it here, Kim. It'll just take me 2 minutes. So this then also connects their perspective to what was said in the Dateline. And, during the course of just discussing this over a couple of days, it can really be generalized to the narrative that exists in the mainstream media in general. They have said a number of times, from their perspective, and they really truly do have an inside perspective on this. They're still in touch with the Chapins regularly. They know a lot about what happened the Saturday night going into the Sunday morning when the murders occurred, as far as Ethan and Xana being at the Sekai house. And I put out one video on that, and we were going to do kind of two more. I'm sure we'll still do it. There's just a little hold, and that had to do with, the Chapin family, first of all, but also one of them is very close with his grandparents, and his grandmother was he really thought she was extremely upset that he was speaking to somebody on YouTube and they were saying these things, and that it was going to come around to either compromise his safety or his standing at the university, or, she's just scared. She's just scared. And, the perspective I get from them is it's not just grandma that's scared, but there's a lot of students that are scared and were deeply affected and impacted in different ways. And they're scared to speak out, and they're scared of law enforcement, and they're scared of, which is much different than what I heard described on the Drunk Turkey show, which is Dave's account that, and correct me if I'm wrong, he says he finally spoke out because he's concerned that nothing really has changed at the University of Idaho, that people are still dying. I just listened to your video and you said not necessarily, not in the same way that the victims of this tragedy perished, but, maybe it's overdoses or whatever it is they're doing, So, this guy, Dave, apparently made it sound like people are really unaffected. Now, the perspective that I'm getting from the two guys that I talked to from Sakai is much different. So I was thinking about that when I was rinsing out the conditioner and, oh, my hair is drying. Okay, cool. And I'm wondering if that difference in perspective is because the two guys that I've been in contact with are in Ethan Chapin's fraternity. They were close friends with him. I would imagine that the other people that are in their fraternity house that they're living with, that they socialize with, that they see all the time, are affected in a certain way just because, I was in a sorority in college, Delta. Can I help you? I actually shared some pictures earlier of that. See if I can find them on the community page. So I'm wondering if that accounts for the difference. I think that it totally could. Why this guy who's calling himself Dave is saying, oh, people really are not even acting like this happened. And the two guys that I'm talking to are like, oh, hell's no. Everything is upside down and sideways, and it's kind of freaky, So I'm not sure. Let me just show this. I'm going to bring Kim up. Yay, Kim. I've wanted to talk to Kim for a while. All right. This is my sorority days when I was a Delta. My sorority sisters, my best friends in there too. Oops. We were the blonde sorority. I remember that guy whose head is on my shoulder. He was like super annoying. Hope he doesn't see this. And that was my friend Chad. And this is a bunch of my sorority sister friends. Yay! So, what's my point of showing you that? I know people in sororities and fraternities, I think I still have a bond with so many of my sorority sisters in these pictures right here. And I mean, percent-wise of anyone else I know, much more so than anyone else I've stayed connected to in my life, I do still have a connection with my sorority sisters. As silly as it might sound to some people, I don't know. That's just how it is. So I think that could account for the difference. All right. Hey, welcome to people that just came in. How are you guys doing? Hi, Brian. How's it going? Yeah. Gregory says, if I had been a student there attending from out of town, I would have transferred to another school. I think I probably would have too. Likewise, if I was a parent. So in this regard, I certainly understand, Kim being, really concerned and wanting to, get information out there and know what's going on, right? I think I would make, depending on who's paying the bill, I guess, or strongly encourage my child to transfer more so than myself. I definitely would. I don't think I would let him go back. I would have to handcuff him to the door if he tried to leave. It's just what I would do. So, all right, Kim, I'm going to put the link in chat right now so you can just come on up. Don't worry about the camera or anything. I'm happy to have you on. So it's Kim from Washington State University that's going to come up here in chat. And whether or not I get to the rest of the details of what our two boys from Sig High have to share with you about, I'm just going to say all the buzz about this case recently, because it's not just Dateline, although there is more to say about Dateline. I think I'm going to do more of that on Monday because it's just way too much for this evening. I'd be here till 4 a.m. and that's not going to happen. The one thing that they did say that I think is a really good point, and I hadn't even thought about this, but let's think about this. So this whole thing with the gag order, and there are people that are legally bound by the gag order, and then there are people who feel that they simply cannot speak because of the gag order, much like these fraternity guys, and I'm sure a ton of other people. It is kind of remarkable if you think about it. Let me take that sorority thing down. My much younger days. If you think about it, that so few people have spoken out. I mean, faculty, staff, just people working on the campus, people in town, students. We're talking with 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old brain. So as I've said on this channel many times, it takes a human brain till a person is 25 or 26 to mature fully. And the last part of the brain that matures fully is the frontal lobe of the brain that is responsible for kind of rational thinking and sound decision making, essentially. So to expect that 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-old students are, not going to try to get their 15 minutes of fame or whatever we call it, or maybe make some money by talking, or just be able to sit still and be quiet for that long is really crazy. So it is remarkable that we have heard so little from anyone, crickets from everywhere. That is very interesting. So there's this gag order, they say. This is a perspective of the two guys from the University of Idaho. After the Dateline in particular, I felt strongly about the Dateline too. And I know Kay Brace just said it was the first Dateline I saw where I was kind of like, it's like a little shaky. And, it might be Kay Brace because you know a lot about this case, but there's been a lot of others where we know a lot about the case, right? I definitely felt the same way. It was surprising to me how much they talked about that is not evidence-based. It's not founded in fact. It's not sourced. As I was playing the little intro in the beginning of this live stream, even here on YouTube with the fraternity guys that I've been in contact with, and Truth and Transparency and Drunk Turkey Show, we are still, I'm going to speak for Truth and Transparency and Drunk Turkey Show here, but I think they would agree. I'll speak for myself. I'm sure they feel the same. I try to give you as much information as I can, like right up to the line where it would be going too far, where I'd be breaking, my agreement or my confidence or this trust with these people, which I wouldn't do, which is, I think, why they talk to me, because I think they've learned that I'm not going to do that. But I give you guys as much information as possibly can without crossing that line. Because if I were not going to do that, why would I even bother wasting, precious moments and breaths on this? Just to say, oh, I know this, but it's just from this, unnamed anonymous source. And, oh, so, hey, Kelly, well, can you tell us something about your source? Nope. Nothing. Right? So these outlets or, these, whoa, just 1 minute, hold it. I have a disabled bunny who's been like a little sick, and she looks like she's about to fall out of her bunny cage, which is on the second story. I got to go get her. Be right back. Okay. Come here. Come here, baby girl. Come here, honey. Come here. Sorry, guys. I'll be right back. Come here, sweetheart. I think you got to close that door, huh? You okay? There you go. Careful. That's a long way down, kiddo. Oh, my sweet little me. Sorry, I raised Howlock rabbit. I want to get back here. All right, sweetie. I'm going to close this door because that was scary. Okay, sorry about that, y'all. Okay. Yikes. Oh no, and my computer turned off. What the heck? Oh no. What the heck? Okay, there we go. It didn't turn off. That was so weird. My screen turned off. Okay. Yeah, my disabled bunny. I got her I guess she's 4 now, and she her arms backwards. Anyway, she was just about to fall out of her cage. All right. So their problem with this gag order, but Dateline and certain people on News Nation and other outlets and these supposedly trusted, national news sources who have always, held themselves to a relatively high or at least the minimal bar of a journalistic ethical standard. Because if they didn't, they would fall into the category of being like a tabloid, right? So they maintain their status or their standing in, I think, the news reporting world by maintaining these certain journalistic ethical standards. What I think people will be studying in the future about the Idaho 4 tragedy is, in my opinion, it's this tragedy that has caused the kind of mainstream news media to really turn on their own journalistic and ethical standards. And, Dateline, Ashley Banfield, Ashley girl, and, other people are saying some pretty serious things and just saying my source. Nothing more, that really bothers these guys. And they said it's bothering a lot of people. This gag order is causing people to legally stay quiet, and it's causing the rest of the community that actually might have something meaningful to say or talk about or give to society, because the entire world is traumatized by this case. It's just one of those cases, right? So the way they see it, and this is, I think, really interesting, I hadn't thought of it this way, is due to this gag order and it being so strictly enforced, and they feel that it works for the defense, but we don't have to go into that right now. You can think about that for yourself. We'll talk about it another time. What is happening is all of the garbage is getting leaked out by these people that don't know anything about anything, as one of them said to me just earlier today, rather than people that actually knew the victims and respect the victims and know the families and respect the families. They feel like, wouldn't it be better if those people who actually do know something and have some kind of connection and have some care for and respect for the victims and their families, wouldn't it be better if those people were talking rather than just a bunch of reporters saying outrageous things at times and doubling down and tripling down and quadrupling down on them, just because it's just my source. It's your source. I mean, it could be a turtle beside the road. I mean, what does that mean? So Drunk Turkey showing truth and transparency, I see is doing the same thing that I'm trying to do here, to not just say, oh, it's a source. Not that I'm trying to put myself on the same level as Dateline. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But rather trying to give you as much information as we can without, breaking a promise. All right. I never put that link in chat. Let me do it right now, Kim. Here we go. Sorry, sweetheart. Told you there's a lot to talk about this evening, but all good. All right. So it's the mother of, well, I'll let you describe yourself, but many of you know her as WSU or Washington State University. Kim, if you've been following this case, I think I've just heard her speaking on Drunk Turkey Show and T-Rev, I think. I watch T-Rev sometime. I think it's another great channel. Very different. I think sometimes these two channels really disagree with each other. I get that feeling. And I was Publicly Buzzed too. And I think y'all are not agreeing on anything right now. Is that true? I don't know, but I still appreciate all of them. I think that, like I say, been wrong before, I'll be wrong again. I could be wrong now. Think same about all the rest of you, by the way. You've been wrong before, you will be wrong again, and you might be wrong now. So, I think the people right now, since nobody knows anything concrete, really, few things concrete, the people that are saying like definitively, I know I have the answers, or this person is wrong, or, those are the people where I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about, because you don't have any reason to have that confidence. And I know that. So everybody, let's welcome up Kim from Washington State University. All right, here we go.
Hi.
Hey,
Thank
Kim,
you for
how are you
having
doing?
me. I'm well,
Yeah.
thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's great to have you on. I've wanted to talk to you for a while. Like, I've heard
I know.
you mention just the channel in passing, and I've certainly mentioned you in passing. So it's great to have you on.
Right. Yeah, and I want to tell you, I've mentioned you just with all due respect that you do have connections to students there, and hopefully, and I want to say this to these students too, because they're kids just like mine, right? We all, they're kids, and I want these boys to know that I don't think you did anything wrong. I don't know what you know, and I just know what I know because of what my daughter told me at about the whole situation, and she did know early. And the reality is, I don't have a ball in this game, right? I wouldn't have a reason to make this up, and I wouldn't do that to anybody. I mean, I can't imagine the pain that these parents are in and these families and you kids are in. So I want you to know that I'm only coming from a place right now of wanting this resolved because I don't want you guys to get hurt. And I feel like it's still unsafe as a parent. And you can hate me as a mom, but and that's fine. And I'm fine with that. And I'm not coming down on you. And I know you disagree with me, and I'm okay with that. As long as you're still talking and you're talking to Kelly, I think that's great. Because you got to keep talking because there's got to be a resolve. So please, I do have no ill will, and you can be as mad at me as you like. I'm okay with that. And you can disagree with me, and I'm okay with that too.
I think honestly, at first they were mad. They were livid. If they were on fire at first. I think,
mine too.
I mean, emotions are high now. And I think, I've said this about the Watts case I've covered, for so long. But, if people weren't really emotional and passionate about like a tragedy like this, that would be really bad. That would be terrible. That would mean that we don't have any humanity, right? So
exactly.
So I think after they, got over that, they're emotional. I mean, what happened was and as I said, their perspective is that people are like deeply traumatized, and they have talked to me very openly about the trauma that they feel, not at first, but now they do, because I'm like, oh, aren't you lucky? You get free therapy too.
Right? I mean, they picked wisely because they are, and I'm glad they are, because this will be with them forever. What they don't understand is it has changed who they are as people.
That's right. Yeah.
For the rest of their lives, and how they
I wasn't going to lay that on them yet.
I'm sorry, but how they process it, like by speaking to you, will make it productive or unproductive. And I think they'll be on a productive path, but for you. And I'm so thankful for you. And I've only said positive. I would never talk poorly about anybody but to their face. Like, that's just not my jam.
No.
Not how I roll.
I haven't heard anything that where I've been like, oh, no.
Yeah, I would never. Right. I don't want it to go cold either. So, and I didn't know what a sleuth was, or I thought YouTube was to learn how to fix my dryer. And that's the truth.
Girl, when I started this channel like 2 years and 2 months ago, I thought it was to make lessons for your students during COVID.
Right? I mean, I even missed that part of it, having kids home. So, I mean, I'm not on here for any other reason than to keep this from going cold. So all of these kids on both campuses, because I do believe that this involves both campuses equally, and it just landed there because it was Parents Weekend. It could have been at Wazoo. I mean, I don't know if Brian did it. I don't know if he did it or didn't do it. All I know is what my child told me. And my child knew.
Can you tell us do you mind telling us what your daughter told you?
I will tell you. So so it was Parents Weekend at Washington State. We were on our way home, my husband and I, and we got an alert on our phones, and it said to shelter in place, and it was about between 4 and 5 p.m. So I immediately called my daughter. My husband called our sons, and my daughter said, "I know, Mom," and I said, "What do you mean, you know, Mom?" Like, what do you, and she knew everything that had occurred, that they were stabbed, and that she did know who they were, but she also is graduated with Dana's sister, Jasmine. So they were in the same marketing, school. So she knew who that, but that's not how she knew the information. She knew the information because her sorority sister dates a boy who plays football at U of I.
Okay, so your daughter's sorority sister from
Correct.
WSU dates
Correct.
a dude that plays football at University of Idaho.
Correct. And
Okay,
and I said, and so I said, but he's not in a fraternity. And she goes, well, no, he's an athlete. But I said, well, then how does your sorority sister know? And she said, well, because she's friends with the Pi Phis, because they're all friends. I mean, they know them all.
Mhm.
And I said, okay. And so, yeah, sorry, my daughter was just talking to me. So then I said to her, and I said, so when did you find out? And she goes, I knew around 9 o'clock, I guess, maybe 10 o'clock. I don't know. And she said, I said, well, what do you mean you knew around 9 o'clock or 10? Like, why didn't you tell me we were there? And she said, you would have taken me home. And I'm like, yes, I would have. You are
Right.
absolutely. Do you know your mother?
On the loose, right? Let's go home.
Yep. Pack it up, boy.
Gosh.
Pack it up, boy.
I know.
Pack
And
it
that
up,
must
Peyton.
have been really, I tried to think about,
Mhm.
you as a parent, that must have just been shocking. I mean, I can't
It
even
was
imagine.
terrifying.
Yeah. I'm
It was,
sorry.
and I would have taken, and I would have. Well, you know what? I had to go through so much less than other people. Everybody else, you know what? I am blessed, and I will hold on to that. I'm not going through anything like everybody else is going through. So it's really, but so she was right. She knows her mother. And so I said, well, we're coming around to get you. And she goes, no, I'm not going home, Mom. And I said, but you are. And she's like, no, I don't want to. But I don't want to.
Get those handcuffs out.
Right. And my husband, so then my husband's talking me off the ledge. And the boy, and so he said, you know what? We'll bring him home at Thanksgiving. We'll have a conversation. So that's what he did. So and then my boys left, and they went globally, and they're transferring to a different school on the East Coast next year. And she's already graduated. So, it was a very, very long semester. And so then I said, so during the course of all that was going on, I said, well, who else knows Peyton? And why didn't Morgan tell you? And how does Morgan know? And she goes, well, because she was, and at some point during that 24 or 48-hour period, she said, well, Morgan and Jack, well, I might as well say, Morgan and Jack stayed here. And because the FBI has all the information, it's in the paperwork. And, and so.
Wait, so Morgan and Jack, which Jack?
Right, which Jack? How uncreative are
Water?
we? Like, no, Schuster, he's a football player.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, I thought I didn't know which one of the. I know there's like 5,000.
I mean, right?
Now
5,000 Jacks. Could we have picked a different name? I mean, honestly. And when I called
popular name that year,
we lack creativity. We really do. And so when I refer to the Kiss frat boys as Davids, it's more like the Karens and the what is the other thing? It's just kind of to lighten it. I don't know their names. I don't know who they are. Your fraternity boys. I don't know who the other fraternity boy is. David is a good thing for me because I slip all the time, like I just did now. Right, this tongue of mine. So they're Davids and Peytons. They're David and Peytons. That's what fraternity and sorority kids are. So I don't know their names.
On the replay, I can edit it out if you want me to.
Probably, maybe, but
okay, I will do that. I'll do that. Yep.
And you can, and if those young men have any questions, you are welcome to ask them, or they can ask me. I will absolutely answer any question they have without question. As I've said to the families.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. I could have you come on and them come on, but then I was like, I want to make a public spectacle. But I'm like, wait a minute, the whole thing is they won't come on. Yeah,
and I think that the thing is, I think it's really important that Drunk Turkeys, David, had a voice thing on right, because these are young students. And I don't think they're that safe over there. I think there is an element over there that is far more nefarious than we're
Well,
aware of.
that's like one of my, I almost just slipped. That's like one of the students, he said something we were going to move forward with, about
Right.
what they know about that night where at the frat party right before they went home and then
Right.
those terrible
Mhm.
dates.
Mhm.
His grandmother was in hysterics about it, thinking like she's,
Mhm.
I don't know how much she wants to be, but it was very real to her that if he
Yeah.
continued with this story that something terrible was going to happen to him. So he's like, he can't do that to his
Mhm.
family, so.
Right. And that's fair. And my cousins,
Yeah.
I'm from the East Coast originally. I'm from New York actually as well.
Oh,
And
that's
so
where
I go
am.
back. I know. So I go back all the time. And my uncle is like, what are you still doing there? You need to leave. Like, he's just beside himself. He's the reason that I call Virginia and tell the FBI in Virginia, because he doesn't trust anything here. And I get that. I mean, worldwide, this looks very, there's
Novice.
Yeah, right. I mean, honestly, the things that occurred, and I don't want any of these kids to be involved in it. And I don't know, and I'm not going to say they are, but I just know that there's questions that need to be asked, and really, really important answers. Does that mean Kohberger is not involved in it? I don't know that. He's a creep. I mean, so I guess I haven't finished what my daughter told me. I might as well get back to that. So I said, what did they say? What did she say to you when she sent you the text? She said that two roommates, she said that what happened with the 4 students and 2 survived. And I said, so 2 were alive and and 4 died. Why were the 2 not, where were they? And she said, they locked themselves downstairs in the bedroom.
Okay.
And I said, did they call 911? And she said, I don't know. And I said, well, what did they do? And she said, I think they went to sleep because they were afraid, or it's a party house, Mom. But then she said, so then I kept asking her. She goes, well, she said, actually, and they do it with Snapchat, which is the problem because you can't get snaps back. She said, that one of the roommates had seen that guys outside and inside and were afraid and hid in the basement. And one of the other ones thought it was a party.
Okay.
When they were being loud for that reason. And I didn't know the names then. I don't know that she knew the names then to decipher which was which, but that they locked themselves in the rooms. Yeah. And that they were up when they went out, the noise stopped, they went out, and it was early, like 6:30, 8 o'clock, like 6:30 or so, because her roommate, her friend, knew by 8:30.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this, because I haven't heard you, speak on this issue. So if that is the case, and like I said before, and just for the people watching this,
sure,
I'm so interested to hear what you have to think. Like I said before, because I've had that 6-month relationship with these guys. They're saying no, it is totally not true that people knew before the 911 call. That is, this point is what I'm going with. Just because it's the only deciding factor I have is that
absolutely
trust. But
absolutely,
I don't not believe you. So what then occurred between 8:30 when all these people knew and 11:57? I mean, what the hell happened where nobody? I mean, that's failure to report. I think at this point that's a crime. I'm gonna have to look into that, but that's definitely not good.
Well, and so that was my thing. It was Groundhog's Day in my house. I'd walk back to her and I'm like, nobody called 911. Why? She goes, Mom, I don't know why they didn't call 911. It was a party house. People partied there. That's just what they did. I'm like, have you been there? She goes, well, no. And I said, how do you know it's a party house? She goes, everybody knows it's a party house, Mom. Because, I mean, she just did. I don't even know
that's
enough
a fact
to
that I have confirmed from the people who have been so defensive of the victims. But and
it's not to say they were doing something nefarious. They're college kids. Kids party. They have fun, right? Look,
I
my
just
kids are
drank
no
apple
angels.
juice in college.
Yeah, me too. A little water too, right? Never had a hangover. I mean, honestly, that's what they're there to do. They're learning to they're out there to
Right.
learn to be human beings,
Yeah.
adults, right? And so I'm not.
Oh,
I
wait a
don't
minute.
think
Wait a minute. Probably my demographics for the channel tell me there aren't any college students watching. No, big few. But if there are, you can't do that now, though, if you're in the United States because of fentanyl. Do not put anything up your nose
Yes,
other than
please.
air. Please. Or neti pot. Not even.
Please.
Yeah.
Nothing. And don't even, if you're not going to buy, I know that marijuana is not legal in Pullman. It's not or in Idaho, it's not my jam, whatever. But if that's what you choose, buy it from a verified dealer,
Right.
or a store,
Or,
right?
yeah.
You have access to stores.
Yeah.
Please, and don't put your drink down and think you're not going to get roofied if you're a guy, because you could.
I was roofied twice. It was horrible.
Oh,
Has anyone
yeah.
else here been roofied? It's awful. I thought,
It's awful.
It's awful.
It's awful, and and you know what? It's also, it just shakes you to the core. I know a lot of the girls have been, and it shakes them to the core. But we teach them, don't put your drink down. If you're not going to finish it, let it go. Buy another one. You're not paying for school anyway, guys. I mean, honestly,
That's right.
let's get real. I mean, so I'm not saying these kids were doing anything wrong. I think there's an element that's surrounding these kids that's sucking them in through Greek grill. And
wait, say that last sentence again. It kind of trailed off. I'm sorry.
I believe that there's an element out there of adults who know better, who are taking advantage of these young students and really getting them into pickles, right? Because kids are naive. They're leaving us for the first time. They're going out there in the big world.
Okay, so then I mean, I don't know. I really don't know if you have like a theory or anything like that, but so what adults would that be? Like, who do you think did wrong here other than, if you think that Brian Kohberger actually committed the murders, obviously him, who else did wrong?
So I think that Caden Young's death is pretty telling in all of this. And
Can you
I
explain
think
that briefly to people?
Yeah, so Caden Young is a junior at U of I, and he died over spring break. He's in a fraternity. He's he was a journalism major, and he was in Seattle and overdosed. Was at Harborview, released from Harborview, and then found dead in Centralia. And Emma Bailey, who's 22, from Moscow, and Demetrius Robinson, who's from originally Tacoma, but living in Pullman, he's a DJ and a performer or whatever. They were arrested.
Right. Was it arrested for the drunk driving or for this?
She was arrested for a drunk driving first, and then a month later they were arrested for this. However, on Thursday the charges were dropped completely against Emma, and Emma was released from jail. And Demetrius, they say they're picking up the charges in King County.
Do you know specifically what were the charges? I'm looking it up too.
Selling drugs that it wasn't a murder charge, it was dealing drugs that were mixed with other, like fentanyl, I think, or something to that effect. It was something to that effect. I don't know the specifics on it. But what I find super interesting is that
conspiracy to violate the Uniform Controlled Substance Act. That's the crime.
Which so that's lacing drugs, right? With fentanyl.
Yeah.
Is what I think. And so
probably.
But why Caden Young? Like, because he was a journalism major, and why? So I live by Harvard. My brother.
Wait, do you think he was targeted?
I actually do. If I'm I called the FBI on
nothing but on his keys. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I will. So as soon as I learned about the whole thing, Caden Young dying, and that Emma and Demetrius were there, and then arrested, I called the FBI and told them, "Hey, you got to look at this, because who knows?" Emma lives right around there. She was friends with Dana. I think she was friends with a lot of the girls. I don't know if she was a student or not there, but she's their age bracket, their age group. And Demetrius has a record a mile long for abuses and all of these other things. He was born in
For
Tacoma, which
abusing
is
Emma.
and other people. It was it's deeper than Emma. I think Emma was 12 when he started it. He's like 32 or between 32 and 38. I'm not sure, but he's got a brother there who drives a white Elantra, which is, how many white Elantras? But it's a great car for a kid. Let's be honest. That's why there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean that's tons of them.
I mean, there's some basic things that are just basic. They're just like they just are.
It's a starter car. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like the shopping is better in Moscow. It really is, and people are laughing at that, but it's the truth. Yeah. When we're in Poland, we stay in Moscow. It's nicer. Poland's not that awesome, but anyway.
I've heard that. I know other areas like that. Like Moscow is just where the kind of posh people end up.
It's a very nice area. It's beautiful. We stay. My fancy pants stays in Moscow. They've got great boutique hotels. They've got, even their Best Western, hands down better than any hotel in Poland.
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
but it is.
No,
yeah,
it's those kind of areas. Yeah,
yeah. And we play. And my son plays basketball. He actually met Ethan on the court a few times years ago when they were younger. And Ethan sticks out because he's a triplet, right? So, and Hunter was on the court too. And so my son came down and goes, Mom, I used to play, like when they would get to the champions or state or whatever, both pretty. And Ethan was a great kid. And Hunter was a sweet kid. Ethan the baller, I'll tell you what, from my memories of him. So I'm not, it could have been my children. It could have been these two boys. It could be anybody. And I wonder if, so here's the thing that I want to say this before I finish the rest of what my daughter told me, and this is what I truly believe. I believe that if Hunter were called at any moment, Hunter, his brother, were called at any moment prior, Hunter would have called the police or 911. He would have.
Yes.
Right? So I think it makes sense if these two boys are as close to Hunter and Ethan, and I believe they are, that they weren't told either. And I think that's why they don't know.
Yeah. It's so, and you could very well be right. And I mean, that does logically, absolutely positively make sense. And I do, these two guys who are friends with Ethan and that have been, the confirmed identities and everything, they've sent pictures. They were really like, close.
I believe them. I believe them. I believe they're
I
adamant.
can't imagine they can show you all of this themselves. So I don't think people question it too much, but I mean, if they do, whatever. But
I'm happy to be questioned because as long as people are questioning me, then it's still on the front page. And the only thing I can do is keep it on the front page for these families to get everybody in jail because everybody's got to go to prison. Everybody who's responsible for this crime
so who else
has
do you think could be involved?
Well, so now I'll go back to Demetrius. So Demetrius the charges are they're saying they're going to recharge him in King County. Why King County? He's from Pierce County. He lives in Whitman County or Whatcom County, whatever county that is.
You're talking about who's responsible for the, okay.
Okay. But the owner of 1112 King Street owned the white Elantra that was found in Oregon and also owns property in King County in Seattle. Do I think he's behind it? I 100% believe that he's behind it or a part of it.
Okay.
And it's parallel crimes. And I think that they're taking advantage of kids through that OnlyFans. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying any of the kids. I saw pictures. One of my son's friends who goes to a different college altogether came to me with a picture of one of the students. Darling picture. And it was like an OnlyFans type picture, but it was darling. It was not inappropriate. It was lovely. It truly was. And I said, just get rid of it because I asked what that was. And he explained to me, and I said, just get rid of it. We're never going to talk about it again, which was dumb. I should have not done that. I should have called the police with that information, but it just was like, I
wanted to protect
protecting
the person.
I was bringing a mom, right. I didn't, I didn't want her to be hurt, but so I went on to try and find it again. And whatever's out there now is not real. Somebody has put those over the top of it. I know because I saw the original picture without the phallic whatevers are on it. So anybody watching that, they've been photoshopped. Those are not real. I want that out there right now.
That's so gross. Somebody would do that.
So gross. Like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with people? Honest to goodness. I just don't understand that. But and she didn't do anything wrong, but I do think there are parallel crimes that are surrounding this. And I don't think these kids are aware of it because they're at school, going to class, getting a degree, and having a good time. That's what we're telling them to do. They earned it. They've earned this, right? And they shouldn't have to be worrying about a murder. They're solving a crime right now. They're living a crime right now. That is unforgivable in my book. These children, these young people, I know they're not children, but you know, it's terrible.
Yeah.
What they're going through. And you know, and also there was something else. Sigma Chi had put up, somebody had sent me something about Sigma Chi putting out something about, they played UC Davis that weekend, and 2 Sigma Chi's had put up something, and I was really mad at them, and I kind of snapped at them in a message back.
I was going to ask you about that next, because I know there were some, and I don't feel defensive of them. I just wanted to give you a chance to, because I
think they're right.
Okay, go ahead.
I think there's a modicum of rightness to that. Here's why. A young man from UC Davis has just been arrested for stabbing 3 people.
Okay.
He was a student. He failed out. And he fits the description of one of the descriptions that were given to my daughter.
Okay.
And so
somebody who
was there. They are, my child was told there were at least 2 people outside and 2 or 3 people inside.
Okay,
and the roommates saw them.
I forgot about this. So wait, stop for 1 second.
I know. I can go down right now.
Hi, Karen G. So it's Kim she's a mom, whose daughter at least goes to Washington State University. So we're talking about the Idaho 4 case. You know, I have a connection with 2 fraternity brothers of Ethan Chapin's who, you know, when Kim started telling this version of a story that she knew, that's what caused them to finally speak out, and they didn't just clap back. They they didn't really do much more than clap because it was just through my channel, but they were very upset about it. They since calmed down about it, but
they stepped up. That's good.
They did. Yeah, and they did. And I mean, and I have, by the way, represented, you know, the possibility of like your position as being a mom, you know,
right. And I can mom it. I can mom instinct it. I can do mom instinct here, right?
Sure.
I could be wrong, 100%.
Yeah, but I mean, I think any of us could at this point. So okay. So what leads you to believe that there's a possibility of there being of people involved in this crime, in addition to Brian Kohberger, from what I understand, 2 people outside and 2 or 3 people inside? Because I'm going to be honest, I'm just going to be like straightforward. That sounds a little crazy to me.
That's what was said. She recognized one of them was the creeper and didn't know the others.
Now, who told? How did anybody come up with 2 people outside or 2 or 3 people inside? I'm just asking because I don't know, and I'm just super curious.
So I will tell you this.
Find it yet.
I'll tell you. So it does. It's very, because because it's like processing, and it's like rallying feral kittens. It's like, so you don't know, or she didn't know, only that there was like, who did this? The creeper, and then there were like 2 other people there outside. They saw people outside and then people inside.
Now, who saw these people outside and inside?
One of the roommates.
Okay.
Both of the roommates, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if it was both or one. I just know the roommate. Yeah. The survivors were aware they were there. Right.
Wow.
Right.
Huh. Well, God, you would certainly hope it wasn't Dylan if in the arrest affidavit or the probable cause affidavit, all she said was, you know, a frozen shock face, bushy eyebrows, you know.
So I'm going to tell you when this is why I actually really firmly believe this part of it is that my kids were sleeping when the probable cause affidavit came out, and one of my boys came down and he said the pings don't match. Like, there's something wrong with the route they're saying, Mom. That's crazy. I didn't even know he was awake, and it must have come on as whatever, his phone or whatever. And he said, the pings don't match. Like, nothing matches. Like, he would have, I mean, I guess he could have, but he would have been going like 120 miles an hour in order to get from one tower to the next. Like, none of that didn't make sense. And then then my daughter came down, and it was a little bit later, and she was still kind of sleepy. So it was pretty organic, right? And my son said, "Look at what they just said, Pate." And then he showed it to her, and she goes, "That's not true." And so it was so organic that either she believes the narrative she was told, or, well, she just believes what she was told, right? She wasn't there. And when Dave, so that is why I believe she was told that, and either they were fed that narrative for whatever, I don't know what reason, or it's the truth. But it was still 10 o'clock, and the police were still 2 hours away. Why? What were they cleaning up? And so if they were cleaning up, at first I might have thought, well, I assumed she meant drugs. I think she assumed they meant drugs, but I don't know. I don't know what they were cleaning up for that long, or were they making a narrative, or were they getting so Barbette? That's not an excuse because of the Good Sam laws. These kids all know that you called 911, nobody's going to jail. They're not even going to look at you. This is the rule ever since Sam Martinez died, who was 2019 PC class at Wazoo. So, and it doesn't matter. I don't care. It doesn't matter. When you see that kind of carnage.
Yeah, now see, here's the thing with like the idea that, so this to me, and I'm certainly not, I'm sure that your daughter did hear that, and but if there was 2 or 3 people inside, 2 people outside, with just what we know that has picked up traces of footprints of Brian Kohberger, like I find it to be really like far-fetched that these at least 4 to 5, 6 other people, got away without being detected, or what would be any kind of incentive or legitimate reason for law enforcement risking their livelihood and life to cover for these people. I have a hard time getting my head around that. Do you have any theories?
Well, yeah. The kids don't call the police for a reason over there. At either school. And we have a Brady Giglio, and I know that it could be because of the whole Stickergate thing, but I think it's more.
Wait, that whole what?
That Stickergate thing with where the police refused to turn over the audio, and first they just said there was no body cam, and then they said there was no audio, and they still have yet to turn over the audio. So the problem I have with the noise complaints is that nobody made a complaint. There were warnings. It's very, very much. It appears to be, and you can go down a rabbit hole. Honestly, I can start thinking, oh, it's the cart, but I don't necessarily not think it's an underlying influence here. I think there's a lot going on at
Were you
both
about
schools.
to say cartel?
Yeah, I do think there's a lot going on. Probably, I think these kids have to be really careful because kids keep dying. 5 people have died at Wazoo since, and then at U of I, we've had a death since. So that's a lot of death.
One thing I just do have to say about that is, and it might be different, but I live in a small town, a small town right now. Okay, so in the course of 2 weeks. So I went to a high school. I think my graduating class was approximately 220, 250 people.
Right.
Over the course of 2 weeks, 5 people who I went to high school with, who were in the high school when I was, not necessarily my class, died in this town because there is a mad fentanyl problem that I just learned from one of our moderators. They do not have in Australia. God bless your souls. Do not leave. And well, I was telling my friend that, actually, my friend from work, that she goes, but we got to think about this, Cal. I said, we're going to move to Australia. She goes, we got to think about this because they have a lot of poison things there. Everything.
Yes, they do. Poison things don't bite you.
I was like, all right, pros, cons.
Right. At least you can swim in the ocean.
Right. But,
right. And I know that from the part of Long Island, there's my cousin and I were speaking, and she said, we've got a lot of suicides in this one town where you think there would be none.
So when we're talking about the demographics of young people, of college age people, of people who are likely to engage in behaviors where there's risk taking involved, where there
Sure.
is, seeking the thrill despite what they know about the fentanyl
Right.
epidemic, whatever else. That doesn't,
Right.
and there is, after COVID and our economy is shit down, there's depression,
Right.
there's anxiety. That doesn't seem like an astronomically high rate of death given all those factors. I could be wrong, but
I agree. You know what? Actually, I can agree with that. I can agree with that. I guess the lack of transparency is what bothers me the most from these authorities, and the lack of addressing the situation is part of it. If we've got this many kids who are sad and doing drugs and tainted drugs, well, first of all, we have to find out who's bringing these drugs in. I think that's number one. And I do think that they're addressing that.
That's going to be just like, and I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate, but it's good to have a good conversation to like flesh out as the possibilities.
Right.
If it's like that, and there's so many drugs, so many tainted drugs, the investigative organization that is looking into that is going to be highly protective and secretive. So we're not going to necessarily know. And that's probably a good thing if we want it to be solved.
And I absolutely agree. And and when I've called every time, I don't need to know. I just need to know you heard what I said. And if you don't find it to be legitimate or valuable, great. Just I want to know you heard me, and you don't have to tell me anything, right? But the quad 4 is there, and I do think that perhaps this whole thing interrupted a drug bust. Actually, I feel pretty certain that because quad 4 is they were there immediately. Those, remember the guys in the hats, the cowboy hats,
right?
That's the quad 4.
Okay.
And the quad 4 is a drug task force that it's not for people, it's for areas, but they've recently added Moscow to it. I think Moscow was added maybe last year or this year. I'm not certain about the dates, but it was Washington, or it was Pullman. I want to say Pullman, Lewiston, Clarkston, and Moscow, and maybe there's another area, and I won't recall it, but it's 4 areas that they're really concentrated on removing these drug rings that's there. And I do think the drug ring, I think that Emma was probably pretty enmeshed in it.
I think that's possible. I mean, I certainly think that's possible.
I find that very sad. She's 22 years old, never in trouble a day in her life. All of a sudden, this kid's got a DUI 1 month, and the next month she's in jail for murder. Come on. I find it more tragic than to be angry at her. You know what?
Wait, say that again. Wait, she's got a DUI. Say that again, please. I'm sorry.
She's never been in trouble in her life that I can tell from, or anybody said. She gets a DUI 1 month, and the following month she's in jail for murder.
Well, I don't know if it's fair to say she was in jail for murder. So here's the charges. But she was released. But so I just want to get, and I appreciate the conversation.
Right, I know what you're saying.
But
right. I know that was dramatic, but right. But still, a boy died.
Because I am like, I'm sorry, I bang the drum of being like facts. So now I got to spin the facts. But I love the
totally respect that.
And I love data, so this is great. Okay, so
yeah, yeah, right. We are polar opposites, but that's a good combination.
So it says Emma Bailey and Demetrius Washington have been charged with 1 count conspiracy to violate the Uniform Controlled Substance Act concerning the overdose. So that's not a murder charge. That is several steps from, but still, but from what I understand, and so let's see. I think I need to just send a text really quick so I know what I can say here, but I can say this much without
okay.
From what I understand, she certainly was involved in illicit business activities. So maybe her time was up, and especially if they are focusing on these areas, trying to crack down, on the drugs and the deadly drugs, like you were just saying, like they need to crack down more. Maybe this is them cracking down more,
Exactly. And you know what? And she's 22, so she has time to, it's a one-off, right? All kids get one-offs, except for those 4. I didn't see them having a one-off. They don't get to ever come back, but she gets a chance to recover her life. and have a life, right? So yeah, you're right. So maybe it's a blessing. I mean, if it was my child and I saw those kind of drugs in my child's room, I promise you they'd be in jail. I'd take them and leave them there. I don't play that way. I'm not raising, you know what I mean? It's not okay. People's lives are at stake here. And these kids don't know and they trust everybody. Nobody's ever really, I mean, especially the kids on Greek Row, they're very trusting. I mean, they really are. They're not stupid, but they've got lovely lives and they should. They've earned them. They got their butts to college. They earned their way in. They deserve everything. And I don't know. It's just heartbreaking for me. And it's and I thought once Peyton came home from school, I thought I'd be over the fear, but I'm not, because I feel like I care about all of these kids. I don't want to hear about one more kid being harmed, whether it's themselves or whatever. And that's where I'm coming from. And that's truly why I keep talking. Because, I like the beach. This leaves no time for the beach. But it's important. It's like why you do it. Because, you spent the day with your son and you're here.
So do you have a fear then that, this is because like from, I guess my perspective, like, and I mean, I totally like respect you telling your truth, but like from my perspective, this is like, I don't know, from my perspective, and maybe it's just the way it affected me. So no, it's not. Like I have enough of like objectivity.
Right.
This is a huge like case that's garnering worldwide attention and more over time and continuously. I mean, people are frothing and chomping at the bit for the next piece of information, So in that way, I feel good that, we're locked in on it, and hopefully if things don't go right and justice is not served, there'll be a revolution.
You know what? I hope so. And the thing is, and if it's not Kohberger, then they're still out there.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that. So when I go back to the UC Davis thing, I was furious with Sigma Chi. I was like, you guys, well done. You were raised right. You know how to write a very, very good brief, a really great memo. I'm thinking, and it never even occurred to me. And then when I find out this kid has killed 3 people, and I'm wrong. I don't even know how to get back to them and say, I might be wrong, guys. And I did call the FBI, and I told the FBI, I said, you have to go down there and see. This is what Sigma Chi wrote. This was their theory. I totally blew them off, and I apologize. I apologize, you guys, for blowing you off. You might be right. You might be wrong. And it could be a combination of we can all have a combination of it. Go down there and question that guy. Because if there's 3 other people dead, right? Or not 2. Well, 2 are dead down in California and 1 survived, and then 2 lived and 1 survived here, or in Oregon, and then the 4 here. So is it, I don't know, but it's certainly worth questioning, and Sigma Chi was questioning it. Their theory was valuable, and I should not have short sold it and been rude, and I apologize for being alone. I am sorry, guys. I'm truly sorry. I should have given you more credit than I did. I feel bad. I'm sorry.
I'm sure they will appreciate that.
And the thing is, I'm not out to be against them. Greek was wonderful for some of my children. It was wonderful. Like my daughter loved it. Best days of her life. Like she was sad to graduate, but we're not invincible. They're not invincible. They're just young and beautiful. And these 4 people who didn't deserve this got this.
It's terrible. And here's, okay. So when, and thank you so much for, everything you've shared and the theories and the details. I very much appreciate it. Like whether this is what I always go back to, no matter, what I listen to or what I consider. my feeling about it is this, and I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong in the future, and I could be wrong now, but I don't think I am on this one, but I could be.
I feel the same way. I do. I feel the same way, right?
Maybe it just is like this. The deaths of the I can't think of it. I've been reading about him. Like I can't think of the kid's name that died of
Caden.
Yeah.
Okay, Caden, yeah.
Maybe his death and the deaths in surrounding areas and the 5 deaths at WSU and the 4 additional deaths at University of Idaho and then this tragedy. Man, life is hard and god awful, like earth burning, hell on flaming fire. I don't know, like things happen.
Right.
Like unthinkable, terrible, egregious things that you don't think anybody should ever have to live through as far as the grief that one feels when these tragedies do happen. They happen all the time. Maybe they just all happened. And this tragedy, the Idaho 4 tragedy, is just the way that I'm starting to, and I've tried to question every like possible angle, but with the psychological profile that we well understand now about Brian Kohberger, combined with a lot of the facts and enough evidence that I've seen to make me feel like he definitely did it. If someone else was involved, I'd be fucking shocked, but maybe could be, you never know. And maybe it's just like this guy was really screwed up. He was fat kid with visual snow who no one would go on a date with. And, he felt certain ways about this and certain ways about that. And he had anxiety and it turned into this social awkwardness. And these are the kind of, students I work with. So, these things don't happen in a lot lesser things, of course. But, when you're, developing and your experience is a certain way and your DNA is a certain way and then your behavior becomes a certain way, it becomes maladaptive and you need to catch that before it becomes really fucking maladaptive. So maybe
that's great verbiage.
Maladaptive,
Fucking maladaptive, right? That's great.
Right? And he just committed these murders. And I think it's possible just like that. I could be wrong.
And I do think it's possible just like that. I actually do think that could be possible just like that. I think though that so then I go back to questioning the school because trust me, my kid's pre-law. One of my boys is pre-law and classroom 13.
Congratulations.
Kohberger. Oh well, you know what? Kohberger was classroom 12. And then they let this guy walk around the camp. I'm like, and so I called the school. I called the dean's office. And when I say I called the president, I mean I called the president of the schools, not the country. If I thought he could help us out, I'd call him. But I don't think he can. So I would trust me. I'll call anybody. But I said to them, "What are you doing? Like, what's going on?" And that was after they arrested him. It was January 3rd when the schools all opened again. She goes, "We're in a meeting right now to decide what to do with him." So, who vetted him? I said. Well, that's what we're discussing.
Who are you talking about now? I'm so sorry.
Kohberger. I called Washington State University, the dean's office, or the president of the school, or maybe the dean. It was no.
Wait, who was arrested on January 3rd?
I called January 3rd, Washington State University, because that's when they were opened again, right? When the kids all were going back. I don't think they went back.
Kohberger was arrested on my birthday.
Yeah, I know that. I will forever remember your birthday without question. But the thing was, he wasn't arrested then. He was never arrested then. And so that's my question was, you're trying to decide what to do with him. Well, he's in jail. So, yes, he's fired, but he wasn't fired then. He was not fired when he left. He got a review because PhD teachers, no, okay. I think even your David's, and I'm just saying that just as David is a general name, Peyton are the girls, David's are the boys. There you go. I'm using my kid's name. So I'm just saying, they will say, there's never been a TA they like. The reason and the purpose of a TA is to learn to be a teacher and a professor and to be productive. They're egomaniacs, right? That is the nature of the beast.
And to like grade papers and file things. Really, it's true.
It's true, right? And they have egos, right? Because they're smarter than you are, and they're your age, and they're better, right? It's that whole thing, whatever. It's ego. So he was not fired. He was spoken to. He was given a review, Everybody got an A afterwards. Everybody got a smile on his face, no review. He wanted to keep his place in the PhD program. He didn't move away. He didn't move out. You can get a roommate at any time over winter break, right? If there's an opening, that's why his room was on. So none of those things are weird to me because it's just the nature of being a student there.
Right.
Or anywhere in general, I think. So that doesn't alarm me. I mean, there's things about him that alarm me, trust me. Recycling does not alarm me. In Washington State, you have 3 different bins. We wear gloves because it's disgusting. That doesn't alarm me. We separate I mean, it's just how it is in this state of ours, right? So that doesn't alarm me. You get a fine if you don't. There's things that alarm me, like, well, even he's a terrible driver, for one, literally, but he didn't have a front plate on, which would get you pulled over in both states because it's not legal in both states. So there you go. So that's part of it too. So I just will say that he's weird. He says weird things. He does weird things. He's weird, but doesn't make him a mass killer. And he could definitely have done it.
It doesn't make him a mass killer, but the fact that he's weird and the way he is weird and the psychological profile that can be extracted from the weirdness that we can observe and the indicators that we see in his behavior combined with the evidence, if it is not falsified, and I don't believe that it is, I think that is
I don't think it's false. I just don't think, but the thing is, the problem I'm having a real hard time with the lack of evidence. Like, tell me there's blood in the car. Will somebody please tell me what's in the car? What are you waiting for? Christmas?
No, trial. And I mean, listen, at this point, they don't have any obligation to us. They have provided all the documents that are mandated under freedom, the records freedom,
right.
And they don't owe us anything. What they owe us right now is to get people who are going to kill 4 innocent college students off the street. That's what they owe society. They don't owe us every bit of information. Like, we might want it. We might be drooling. We might be like scratching at the walls because we don't know. But that's like our problem.
You know? And I think, and I want to know because I want to know the kids are safe. Like, my reason for knowing isn't to solve the crime. It's just to have to breathe, to know these kids are safe. They've got the guy. These kids are safe. Nobody's going to harm them. That is my.
Listen, though. Even if they got the guy, I'm talking about my son too. We will never be able to guarantee that our kids are safe. We want that because we're loving mothers, you know. But maybe this is a freaking people are messed up.
People are right. People are messed up, and it's messing these young people up who should be focusing on the best times of their lives.
They should,
and I'm so
why we
sorry.
need to give them the skills that they are going to need to cope with the realities that they're going to live in. You know, so
right. And the best way to do forward, so I want them to know there's not an adult out there against them. I'm for them and their safety. I want them to know that is what.
No, that's
where I come from.
Message. Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? I know. And I think that so I just and I know they don't have to tell us everything and they don't have to be transparent, but the investigative team I'm also afraid that he'll walk if he's guilty because the investigator the defense's investigators called me. So they are aggressive, and the FBI has called me, and there was something of Xana's I felt like needed to go to Jasmine, and so when I first called, I called a lot, and they were calling back, and so asking questions and getting the information and documenting the information, and they said, and so one of the last times I called them, I said there was something I felt like needed to go to Xana's sister, and I didn't want them to drop the house or raise the house without making sure that she got it. And he said it was an Idaho State patrolman, and he said he would
really good
make
of you
sure.
to do. Yeah, I heard about that. That was good.
And I just wanted to make sure she got it, right? Because it's so little, it could be gone. And I just wanted to make sure that, what else can we do?
Did she get it?
What else? He said he would do his best, and he couldn't guarantee anything because that wasn't his part of the case. but
Right.
I don't know if she's got it or not. I'll probably never know, but I
Yeah,
hope.
no, that was good because I'm
All
sure
we
that.
can do is hope. I mean, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there's things
absolutely.
like Ethan's clubs. I mean, my husband could have gone pro as a golfer. Clubs are a thing, and it's not because they cost money. It's because they're just a thing. Like, I don't know. If you're a golfer, it's a party ass. Your
Mhm.
sticks are a party ass. So I don't know. I just think all of it is, and I hate hearing people talk poorly about any of these children.
Mhm.
They don't have
Yeah,
a
I mean,
chance to defend
absolutely.
themselves, and so
Oh,
I get a
oh
little
my
bit.
God, I know.
I get
It's
crabby with
not,
that.
it's not acceptable.
It's
I'm
not, and none of these kids.
now I'm gonna go to somebody in chat was asking about which one of you was asking about the first interview with Kaylee Gonzalez's parents and the sister? Because I want to play that because you know, I think it's really interesting to go back and listen to some of the things that were
I do
said
too. Yeah. Right.
now.
Right.
Which I've been looking for. The only one I'm finding with the sister is towards the end. The first interviews I'm finding with the mom and the sister, the mom and the aunt and the sister, or her
It was with.
parents.
It was. I think it was with the mom, the dad, and the sister. And I'm not sure. I think it was Betty Bullhorn actually, but I know Brian N had the same conversation with them. But it could have been either Olivia, Chronicles of Olivia, or Betty Bullhorn, which was on. He just.
Well,
I think he's the one
does
that
somebody in chat you tell me which one where what video or what interview you're referring to so we can take a look at it?
Are they asking about getting a hold of Jack?
What's that?
It's a question about where
No,
Jack was. Or...
I don't know what the question was. I just happened to see that.
Okay.
Who? Yeah, let's see. Who was? Let me see. So the first interview that I was aware of was, let's see. So let's see. It was November 20th. So I think Kaylee's mother and father did an interview on Fox. And then was it also the same day when they did the sit down with Kaylee's sister and the mother and the aunt was there when in the beginning the sister was getting a little.
I think the first one on Fox was with Kaylee's dad, her brother, and her sister.
Nope, that was the 23rd, but there were interviews on the 20th. Yeah.
Then was it the aunt, Kelly's mom, and the sister, and Olivia?
Let's grab one of them. Whoops, what just happened there? That's weird.
Where Kaylee said to her mom, where Olivia said to her mom, "We have to be calm."
No, and the mom said to Olivia, "We've got to get this right," because Olivia was.
We got to get this right. Got it.
Giving the side eye all over the room. Yeah.
Well, Olivia is a brain like Kaylee, like right. Kaylee, I do believe Kaylee discovered a plethora of information, and she was Nancy Drew. Remember Nancy Drew when we were younger?
Yes,
I don't think
the first book I ever read was real book I ever read.
Nancy Nancy Drew.
Hidden under the murder under the staircase or
something. Under the staircase. I think it's the first one.
That's right. And I'm so into true crime. My aunt got me on to Nancy Drew.
And it was connected to the Hardy Boys, right? It was.
Right. Yep. That's right.
And so she was our little Nancy Drew. And
girls, Nancy Drew for girls.
That's right. Right. So anyway, I think she discovered things. She knew a lot. I think she had a lot of information, and she was going to solve a crime. And she was I'm sorry, but she's a badass. She was strong, and she was determined, and she knew right from wrong. Just like I think they all did. They were good people, good in their core, people this world needs. And I think that might have gotten her in trouble. I think that people who know too much get in trouble with what's going on. That's why I'm worried for these kids.
Sorry, hold on. I'm just reading comments.
That's okay. Take your time.
She said that in the interview with Danielle. So what interview are you guys talking about so I can pull it up so we can watch it and everyone can. Let's see here. I was asking. Edward Schwenk read the Hardy books. Cool. Before the game starts. How come you guys don't have any answers for me? Guys, let's see. Netflix Genie. I don't even think they'll listen to me. They're talking to each other. Nobody's answering me.
Like raising children.
Ara, which interview should I play? Oh, wait. Did Ara have to go to the bathroom? Hey, Green-Eyed Bandit. How are you doing? Nice to see you. If anybody knows the interview that's being referred to, just put it in caps. If not, I guess maybe I'm already over it at this point. But
was it with Kaylee's parents or with who?
Somebody said it was with Kaylee's parents and the sister.
Oh, I know that. Was it with Brian Enton?
What's that? I don't know.
With Brian Enton? I don't know. Okay. And I know that Olivia, when I've spoken with Olivia, and Olivia is can I just say, everybody's giving her, she got a hard time. She's a bright girl, and she's actually my niece's age. They went to high school together, and she's a bright girl, and we didn't even discover that until months later, for the record. And I've told the parents, if you have a question for me, I'll answer it as best I can. Steve did ask a question once, and which I feel like I shouldn't share, and I answered it as honestly as I could. And every time I learn something or somebody sends, because I get sent things a lot.
Hallelujah. My computer ran out of battery. I didn't even know it wasn't plugged in. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you for sticking around. Oh my gosh. It looks like, I guess, Kim stepped down. Well, Kim, thank you so much for coming up and, tell us what you have to say. It was great having you up, and I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much. And I'm also sure that our friends from, our Sig Chi friends from the University of Idaho are going to very much appreciate your message, but I don't think they're feeling any which way anymore. But thank you so much. It was nice. So Janie was telling me that you guys were looking or talking about the first interview with Brian Enton. Is that right? Oh, cool. Thank you, Ara. I appreciate it. You probably, oh, wait, let's see. Am I back? Yeah, I'm back now, right? You can, guys. You know I'm back, right? This is happening. Is this real? Do you see me and hear me? Let me make sure. Yeah, you do. Okay. Yeah, you do. Okay. Yes. Thanks, JD. It's all just a dream. Okay. So let me find that for you. First interview with Brian Enton. Was it, let's see, just gonna take me a minute to figure out which one is the first. All right. Oh, you know what? I know a better way to do this. Can somebody sing to the viewers while oh, nobody can because I'm the only person up here. Okay, so. So now, as I was saying earlier, there is like about half of, well, definitely half of the information that I had to pass on to you that was a response or an affirmation or new information from the two University of Idaho students that the channel has a connection with. And so I think I'm going to do that Monday evening at 9 o'clock because there's more, but it was too much to talk about in the evening anyway, to digest it in the evening anyhow. And yeah, it'll be better to do it on Monday. And I'm going to organize how I can roll out that information so it'll make the most sense to you because some of it's like, what? All right. Is this one you're talking about? You know, this is the one you're getting. Let me know if this is the one you're talking about here. I don't remember when Brian Enton started interviewing, but it could have been this one. I'm not sure. Suspicious. You're so funny. And Double R, you need to chill out, okay? And I will get your book to you on Tuesday. There were a few people that I started doing it and things got busy. And I apologize for that, but I'll get it to you.
Dozens of tips and crime scene pictures, still no suspect in the murder of 4 Idaho college students stabbed in their sleep. Families mourning their loved ones while looking to the police for answers as agonizing weeks stretch on. News Nation's Brian Enton joining us live now from Moscow. And Brian, some of these family members are frustrated. Are we any closer to a suspect than we were 3 weeks ago?
Unfortunately, not that we know of, Natasha. The latest we have heard from police is that there is still no known suspect and not even any persons of interest. The prosecutor told me this week they don't have any video of a suspect on camera, and they're still soliciting tips from the public now, 3 weeks after the murders in the house behind me. You can see this is still a crime scene tape. The police department here has hired private security to keep an eye on the house at all times as the victims' families grow frustrated. I spoke with Kaylee Gonsalves's family, her mom and dad and sister, who say they're just growing impatient and they want more information from the police. Is anyone acting differently since the murders? I mean, is there anyone that you have a weird feeling about that the girls knew or that comes to mind?
Yeah, I would say not in the immediate circle by any means, but a few of the names that have been circulating around, I think it's hard not to kind of, dig into this. And I don't know how much of that is just because we have so little information from law enforcement.
Was this the video you were referring to or no? Jeannie.
And how much of it really is, a sister or a father's intuition.
Can you elaborate at all? I don't know. You don't have to give a name, but I mean, is it someone that you knew or?
I have something to say about that. I just feel like there's been a couple individuals that were cleared very fast. That may not, maybe he shouldn't have been. And yeah.
Share the strong alibi.
Just really fast.
If you can dismiss.
An hour later and we're like, what? And I don't know. I don't know anything about those individuals. I just know they were people that, definitely should have been looked at. And
okay, so now in retrospect, this is indeed a good question. Who do you think it is that Mrs. Gonsalves, and clearly sister agrees, is referring to when she's talking about these people that should have been looked at but were cleared far too soon? I'm going to go back just a few seconds. And no, the two guys that I've talked to, without quotes, do not know Brian Kohberger, but I don't understand the rest of the question that was asked. Sorry, I'm on a different screen. I can't see who the commenter was.
They're very fast. That may not, maybe he shouldn't have been. And yeah.
Share the strong alibi.
Just really fast.
If you can dismiss.
An hour later and we're like, what?
Okay, wait. She's like, okay, got to go a little further. She's like really worked up about it. I forgot I want to say rants about it a little bit because I don't feel like she's ranting. She's just talking because, my God, she just lost her daughter here. All right.
Mind?
Yeah, I would say not in the immediate circle by any means, but a few of the names that have been circulating around, I think it's hard not to kind of, dig into this. And I don't know how much of that is just because we have so little information from law enforcement and how much of it really is, a sister or a father's intuition.
Can you elaborate at all? I don't know. You don't have to give a name, but I mean, is it someone that you knew or?
I have something to say about that. I just feel like there's been a couple individuals that were cleared very fast. That may not, maybe he shouldn't have been. And yeah.
Share the strong alibi.
Just really fast.
If you can dismiss.
An hour later and we're like, what? And I don't know. I don't know anything about those individuals. I just know they were people that, definitely should have been looked at. And yeah.
I don't know what would prevent you from sharing somebody's alibi.
Yeah, I think that's what we're struggling with. So it's like, we know what we know. We've, fought for Jack Kaylee's boyfriend. And
so if they're not talking about Jack Kaylee's boyfriend, and I don't know if it's neither here nor there at this point, but I'm wondering who it is that they have a problem with. It was cleared so quickly. We do know the first people to be cleared was the person who gave them a ride from the grub truck to 1122 King Road, who's actually one of the younger frat boys. Do you guys know that? And also the two roommates, and also the DoorDash driver, yes. And Maddie's boyfriend, Jake, not Jack, but Jake. I can't remember who else. I don't know. I'm not sure. But thank you. You told me you were talking about the Olivia interview. Okay, I didn't catch that. I'll see if I can find. Oh, hoodie guy, right? Well, hoodie was he? I can't remember right now when exactly he was cleared. Maybe, yeah. So, Sis says, I think the roommates, didn't they allude to a fight between the roommates and Kelly Gonzalez in another interview, or am I imagining that? I'm not really sure. I know that there was like a very small thing with, not with Kaylee, but with Xana, but we're going to talk about that a little bit tomorrow. But I've already talked about that on this channel, but maybe, possibly, let's see, maybe. Which one is the daughter? The one on the left? Yes. Oh, they equal KG's parents. Yeah, okay, gotcha. I knew what you're talking about, girl. Suspicious. Oh, wait. Does she look 8 months pregnant in the interview? Why are you asking? And hey, J Lord, how are you? And I saw your comments. I got you, but I'm respectful to everyone on the channel, and we'll always stick to the facts. Regarding what Kim had to say. I was glad to ask her some questions myself because I've heard her, and I know she's been on a lot of other channels, and I've heard her on a couple of them. And there's some questions I wanted to ask her, so I was really happy to ask those questions. As far as and this is about all along the way since we've been covering this case on this channel. When it comes to live streams, people will bring things up where I'm just like, whoa, that's gone way out of bounds. And I definitely feel that way about the 2 people outside, 2 or 3 people inside. And I really do, as I said, when Kim was up here, I really am starting to believe, as we know more, as, I hear more from a kind of like closer to the situation experience, is there's more evidence that is revealed, or more alternative theories that are excluded or ruled out. I really am leaning towards it just happened. Brian Kohberger turned into a maniacal, maladapted, disgusting scumbucket of the earth psychopath, and did this for reasons that seem, from a psychological perspective, pretty clear how it all kind of probably panned out, and I very strongly am feeling now that it's just like that. If you have any, desire to leave a comment in chat, let me know what you think about that. I would love to hear what you think about that. Or if you'd like to come up for just like a couple minutes and let me know what you think, rather than typing it, just verbalize it. That would be cool too. But who else thinks that these murders probably happened similar to, what, not necessarily like, the law enforcement version isn't without some trickery or a small element or whatever element of cover up, or not saying it's perfect, but something like what is being represented from law enforcement, and then all of the, level-headed, responsible analysts out there who thinks it's just like that, who thinks there's some other like theory. I really would like to know what you think.
We still stand that way. So I did just kind of want to clear that up while we're talking through this ambiguity, that, that's not what we're honing in on here.
We don't want to make more victims out of innocent people.
Exactly.
We definitely don't want to do that.
And so what the family is talking about is there's been a number of people involved who police have said have been cleared at this point. The family is saying they want to know what the specific alibis are. They want to know the evidence and proof of why police cleared those people. Also, Xana Kernodle, that's another one of the victims. For the first time, her mom spoke out last night to Ashley Banfield. Something very interesting. She revealed that Xana's father was actually at this house within a week of the murders. Listen to what she said.
I think about that. Green Eyed
that he
Bandit. I
had
know.
just went and replaced the lock the weekend before.
You said her father mentioned to you that they had replaced the lock?
Yes, that he had, or he had fixed it or something. But yeah, he said that he had fixed it the week before, just to make sure.
The week before.
It's interesting because the way this house is set up behind me, there's a coded lock on the front door, and then we're told the bedrooms, at least most of them, have individual coded locks into the bedrooms. So the fact that her father changed the lock is interesting. We're trying to figure out how the killer got into these rooms. Were the doors open or were they closed? All of that still under investigation. Natasha?
All right, Brian Enton live for us in Moscow, Idaho. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.
Okay, so that was that. And I was just looking for your marks, actually.
Dozens of tips and crime scene pictures. Still no suspect in the murder of 4 Idaho college students stabbed in their sleep.
In the immediate.
Yes, live now from Moscow.
They'll be wrapped up in appeals for decades if found guilty. That might be true, but that will, and I don't know exactly what you're saying in response to. And welcome, Mike. How are you doing? At least he'll be in prison, right? Like, to me, if they do pursue the death penalty, because I saw your previous comment. You said it'll be a mistake to pursue the death penalty. Maybe, well, perhaps, certainly from a taxpayer dollar perspective, right? But as long as I think he is in prison and he can't hurt anyone else out, like in the civilized world. And I'm sorry to the prisoners who are civilized that I'm not including you there, but yeah, but it is always a shame to have to waste taxpayer dollars for scum of the earth like that, allegedly. Thank you, Truth Seeker. I appreciate that. You do really well listening to and respecting all of your guests. Shouldn't we all? So yeah. So I'm guys. I'm not reading every comment in chat, of course, but you know, and I understand. Listen, I get it, right? I get it. You know, but you know, this live stream started off talking about what the guys that we have a connection to at the University of Idaho, you know, had to say about this new guy that's calling himself Dave and some other things. And, you know, the reason that they spoke out in the first place was because of their reaction to the information. And it wasn't just from Kim. There were other people that were putting things out there, but that Kim is just the person that caught their eye. And that's why they first started saying, okay, listen, it's time to talk. And we can't do it because of the following reasons I've discussed a million times. So she was here. So it made sense that she, you know, gets to talk on it. So, you know, I just ask when, you know, there's a guest on my channel, like, you know, just this channel should just be about like facts and respect, you know. And I appreciate all of you guys. And I get it. Like, there's a lot of passion about this case. As I said before, and I'll say it a million times again, that's a good thing. Because if we didn't have a lot of passion about this horrific act and the loss of these beautiful lives, that would be really freaking like weird and disgusting. So it's all good. But we're always gonna try to, you know, stay with fact and respect. Okay, this is a good question. Fair question. So, and welcome, Kathy. How are you? Says, so if the only one who did this is locked up, why are the students still afraid to speak up? What could they possibly be afraid of now? Well, you know, I kind of have already explained that earlier, but I know it's been 2.5 hours. So I don't expect that you've been here through the whole thing. I've explained it before, but I'll be happy to say it again. It's not that they're afraid of the person who committed this act. They are not. just the two people I've spoken with, think he's probably the guy, hope he's the only guy. Like, that's not their main, like, focus concern. Obviously it is a concern, but what is preventing them from talking is the fact that everybody is aware that there is a gag order. These individuals are not witnesses. They are not, held responsible to the court in any way. So therefore, there can be no court penalties against them if they do speak. Such is true with everybody else on earth, except for those who are bound by the gag order, right? But you notice how few people in that community from that school, like, who knew the victims, are coming out and talking about anything other than, I remember this time when we had this talk and we were doing this kind of TikTok dance, and because of the gag order, and also because of the severity of the crime, and because, and I'm just, this is a little bit of, me speaking on everything I've observed, heard, and learned, because of the love and respect that people in that community really do have for the victims and their families. The community as a whole has been respectful of the court process. For them, it's not about talking about every possible alternative theory that could be, hypothesized about on God's green, blue, and sometimes gray and murky brown earth. It is about finding justice for the victims, for their friends, for their classmates, and for the victims' families, who they personally know and are deeply touched by this whole tragedy, and in a way, because they are part of that community for themselves. When a crime like this happens in your very own community, even if you don't know the victims, it is personal. Your sense of a lot of about a lot of things that existed before that event are changed. And from a psychological perspective, a lot of times people cannot understand why that is, or they don't want to admit to themselves or other people, or they feel embarrassed or weak, or they just aren't aware that they were so deeply affected. But they need to heal, and they need justice, and they need peace, and they need for this horrendous situation to be rectified, and it to the farthest degree it can, in earthly matters as well. So they're in a little bit of a different mindset than we are, that's for sure. And they respect the fact that their fraternity doesn't want them to speak out, but also has been able to set forth and incorporate sanctions, let's say, if they do, because they can do that, because they're a private organization. And that same thing that's happening within their fraternity and the university kind of putting their message out, and then their families. I was speaking about the grandparents earlier, and their connection they still have with the victims' families and the wishes of the Chapins specifically. All of these things cause them to be, respectable human beings, and awesome for them at their young age. And so they're not speaking out. It's not that they're afraid. It just doesn't feel, it's not the right thing to do. I've said several times the word they've used is that they feel they've been bound by a gentleman's agreement, not just from one source. It's not just from the fraternity, but it's coming from a few directions, and they're honoring that. Awesome. I mean, I think that's amazing. So, which all just goes to support, the reason why I trust what they say. There's literally been nothing that they've said that hasn't checked. Literally nothing. I mean, they might, kind of take a stab at something and that was not a good word. They might theorize about something, or we might just be talking about a situation in the hypothetical, and they're not right. but when they present something as being fact or truth, it's checked out every time. And also, no way, are the kids afraid of the gag order? I mean, in a way, there is a lot. So this is what I've learned about the gag order. There's a lot of confusion about how the gag order applies to anybody. Anybody that's concerned about it, they're concerned, does it apply to me? And, you know, in listening to the feelings and questions about that, there were 2 times when I was on a Google Meet with them, with my friend who's an attorney. For one of them, it was only a couple minutes. The other was like the duration of the meeting. You know, I don't think we ever actually circled back to that, come to think of it. But the way the judge, I'm sure that if you read the legal words, it was clear who the gag order applied to. But the way it's been presented, you know, just in the news or even to the public, it really wasn't clear. So, you know, yeah, so maybe they are a little afraid of it. You know, they were a little afraid of it. I do know that. There's just some uncertainty, and there's already enough uncertainty for them, you know. It can only take so much, right? Yeah, every university has that. Yeah, I agree. Oh, wait, I'm really far behind. I'm like 10 minutes behind. I'm sorry, guys. Let me read this out loud. Cricket Moon, welcome. How are you doing? Says, how does one person enter a house of 6, kill 4 without worry that as he begins, one of them will not run, call 911, pull a weapon, or counterattack, especially if he was watching and knew the risks? Well, I mean, what do I know? But, you know, my answer, and I don't, this is my answer, and I think it's an answer that resolves the questions like well enough in my mind, at least. It is the timing. The fact that I think he knew their schedule. You know, recently it was in the Dateline where they talked about a neighbor of his in Pullman, Washington, who said, you know, she thought that someone broke into her apartment and she was feeling really insecure. He offered to put a security system in her apartment, and that he did. And then police are saying now that he had the ability to see into her apartment because of that security system that he put in, like the camera, right? So that's fucking creepy. I mean, obviously, considering what he's being accused of doing, creepy is like whatever. But anyway, there's a feeling among investigators that he may have actually set up that whole relationship with this person, and he may have been the one who made it look like there was a break-in just so he could do that. We don't know. We do know how close to their house he was on at least 12 occasions. We also do know about the parties that went on their house, and it was really just like an open house. I mean, who knows? He could have put a camera in their house. He could have really, literally in real time, and this is just my thought process, and that's it, been able to see and know what they were doing. So then, you know, combine that with them being drunk, them being sleeping, them, yes, being 6 of them, but spread out through this whole kind of big house. And K-bar knife. So yeah, so that just resolves it for me. But for some people, maybe it wouldn't. I mean, I'm sure there's questions you can ask and holes you can poke into what I just said, but I think this is a great point, Suspicious, in regards to whether or not they should pursue the death penalty. Sis says, I think they have to pursue it. If not, what crime in the state would warrant it? If they don't, it needs to come off the books, in my opinion. 100%, sister. I agree with you. Absolutely. She said unbiased coverage. Trying to figure out. So what about unbiased coverage? Who said unbiased coverage? Did I say that? I don't know. Not sure what that's about, but hello again, or whoever that was. Sorry, I unclicked it. Yeah, exactly, J-Lord. J-Lord says cameras are now pinhole small, super clear, and easy to plant. Yeah. Does anyone know why BK's October 2nd court date disappeared? I don't know, but geez, I would guess that maybe it's absolute fantasy with 51 terabytes of discovery. What? That would be 3 million pages if they were all pages, and obviously they are not. But what? We were like worried about the like almost 2,000 in the Watts case. Well, that was pages. Yes, tailored and very inexpensive. Yeah. Very interesting. Okay, so I think I'm going to end this. Unless anyone has any questions or anything else you want to, take a look at super quick. Oh, wow. So in addition to the 3 million pages, wow, I'm getting really tired. J Lord says the 51 terabytes is also equivalent to 12,000 full movies. Damn. I don't even remember what it was I was watching. It just happened to be on. And the person speaking just wasn't grasping how large 51 terabytes would be. And I mean, I couldn't just like conceptualize that either. I've heard various references to like guide me to trying to comprehend how big that is. And the person kept saying, oh, well, you're going to need this. You're going to need this. And the other person that was on air was like, no, you're going to need a little more than that. He's like, well, maybe the firm is going to have to hire a clerk to get through all of that. Oh, my God. Clerk. Some people are so silly. No, it's not going to be removed. Nope, it's going to stay up. Yeah, I'm just going to edit out some names that Kim kind of accidentally said of students that she knows. So. Yeah, so Paige says, I think that the October 2nd court date was just something that was thrown out there. Everyone knows is unrealistic. Yeah. And I don't know why, if there's a reason, but that makes sense to me too. Try says, maybe his attorney sent that 51 terabytes back and said his alibi is in there. LOL. Yeah, right. Oh my God. Oh. Oh, thank you, Susan. Hey, thank you very much. I'm glad that you can make it. I appreciate you. Okay, so here is what. Don't remove. No, I'm not going to remove it. No. I know. I wasn't, I was planning on this being short and kind of like concise and the point, but sometimes we get the monkey wrench thrown into our YouTube moderator wrench mix, but Ara and Suspicious will know, we're both here right now, that at least it wasn't an additional plus 8.5 hours of Megan Cole. Because really, I was so hurting the next day. I had to go to work the next day. Those were back in the days when we were young and crazy. Oh, Dry says it looks like the new date is November 9th now. Cool. Right around elections, always a good time to start a trial. Right? Beautiful. Mm-hmm. All right. So I was starting to really agree with this, and then I've got a couple things to say here. So Cricket Moon, hi, how are ya? So Cricket Moon says to somebody, I'm not a BK groupie. Oh, for the record, okay. I just want actual justice. And I was like, good, yeah, so do I. You know what? And in order to have actual justice, we have to ensure that the defendant is well represented and has every opportunity at, having their rights fulfilled and justice from their perspective arrived at, which, if they're guilty, it's going to be the same thing as those who want justice for the victims' families, right? But the process has to play out and it needs to be honored and respected. So I was like, yeah, right on, for sure. I studied forensic science, and very cool. That's super interesting. And if you ever want to come up and talk about that, I'd love to hear about it. My instincts tell me that there's more than one perpetrator, possibly. Incredible social experiment, isn't it? Division is easy. Now, okay, so I'm thinking twice about that. So before I make any other comment, do you mean like social experiment, like, how we're all theorizing and some people are going into the corners here and getting attached to, their side and their narrative of the version of the evidence? Or do you mean social experiment like a psyop? Because that idea is not allowed on this channel because I think it's really disrespectful to victims' families, but I'm not sure what you mean there. So when people are saying, oh, that didn't really happen, the victims weren't real, the witnesses were actors and no place for that here, because there are real victims' families who suffered losses that, I thank God I cannot even begin to imagine. So I'm not going to allow the channel to disrespect them like that. But again, I don't know what you meant. But it's a good lesson for everyone to learn. Write that down in your notebook. Dry says it's out of the speedy trial perimeter. That's very interesting because, yeah, they did go for the far side of the speedy trial perimeter. So let's think this through. And I think I'm too tired to even start to think it through right now. But if that is outside of the speedy trial perimeter, how would that movement of the date from October 2nd to November 9th, election season, change anything else? Or why? I'm not sure, but that's a very interesting point. Thank you for saying so. Unspeedy then. Right. Okay, there you go. Yeah, Rosie, more like 150 paralegals. Oh my God. I couldn't believe when that guy was saying that. I was like, oh, stop. You got to be joking. I thought he was, but I don't think he was. Okay, cool. Cricket Moon. Awesome. Yeah. I don't know. When I read it the first time, I was like, oh no, one of those, things. But then when I read it out loud, I read it differently. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for providing a What's the Obsession channel teaching opportunity. Oh, man. Mm-hmm. Paige says, I just want the right person or persons responsible for this tragedy to pay the price with a fair and just trial. Absolutely. Imagine if the wrong person is still among us or others who are involved are still free. Yeah, you're right. And I mean, that is a risk that we should not be willing to take. And, that is, I think, right there, an example, that, really explains the reason why any level of corruption in our legal system, and especially in law enforcement, should be absolutely unacceptable, and it should come with a very high price that has to be paid when somebody engages in corruption. Because in our justice system, we need to trust that they have done, everything they possibly can do to ensure that Paige, just what you said, has been achieved. And that's a lot of trust. Yeah, Cricket Moon, I agree. It says people are getting ferocious. Yes, and that's what I thought you meant my second reading. That people are getting really ferocious about defending their perceptions about this case. And, that's just so crazy to me. I'm just going to say it because there is a gag order. There was an abnormally long probable cause affidavit, but it was 4 murders and it was all the things that it is, right? But there is still so freaking much we don't know. 51 terabytes. Do you have 150 paralegals in your brain? Have you absorbed all of that yet? If you have access to it. So, but I guess the interesting thing is Cricket Moon and everybody that some people think that they do know it all. So they have a right to establish that opinion and, put a stake in the ground and then pour some cement around it. It just makes you rigid and stuck in the ground with cement. So not advisable, right? Brian has a master's degree in cloud forensics. Interesting. When I was looking at the list of motion to seal for discovery items, yeah, I don't know, man. Hopefully that he's the only one and they have the right guy. And if they do, I think that the nails are already in his coffin. I just do. So this is the thing though, J Lord, people are highly paid to be grieving family members. This is not, we don't do this on this channel. We're just not doing it because I just think that's so disrespectful to the family members. Thank you, Cricket Moon. I very much appreciate that. Thank you. Oh. No, it wasn't just. Thank you, Rosie. And I'm really glad to see you tonight, Rosie. Change the suggestion to watch the obsession and more. Yeah. Yeah, my channel name is very limiting right now, but then people who know about brands, are like, it's gonna, I don't know what to do. I just don't know. I have thoughts, but I haven't made any moves. When the little true crime fairy taps me on the shoulder and a true crime ladybug lands on my other shoulder, then I'll know it's time to change the name. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, so I think this is a really good point. So Paige says, I think many question the credibility and adequacy of the Moscow Police Department because in the beginning they gave contradicting statements, but I think they were just overwhelmed. I think so too. I think this was a freaking beast. It just is. Yeah, I 100% agree. Oh, thank you, Paige. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. J. Lord says, people get so emotionally attached to people they never met. They get a theory in their head and won't let it change. Well, you know what? I would rather, be a fool for, having some feeling for, grieving parents that just lost their, 20-year-old child to a horrific, gruesome stabbing I would just rather err on the side of that than the possibility that they are just real people and parents and disrespect them in that way. So that's my standard and this is my channel. Mm-hmm. That's a good point too, Agape Love. With the technology today and all of the millions given to the colleges for IT and security, the forensic on the phone and computers should be top notch. I thought that, Susan, too. What? Yeah, maybe I will. I don't know if that's, yeah, maybe. I gotta think this through. So J Lord says, I don't believe it is or isn't, but it does seem like it could be. I don't know what's worse, believing an evil killer took out 4 young adults or that we're being punked for an agenda. So I just revert to my previous statement. You know, I'd rather take, if it's the evilest of the evils, I'd rather take the route of being a fool than to be disrespectful to people who have suffered so greatly. Because I'm confused then. Okay. Yeah, you're right. There's corruption everywhere. You're right. That is a part of life. I mean, humans are imperfect. And as I said earlier, freaking can be screwed up. Oh my gosh. That's Gregory says to J Lord, that's what trial's for, to set the record straight. Very good. Gregory was coming in with a sensible point. Oh no, I mean, I get, J Lord says people have survivors being sociopaths running a drug. I know, I get, dude, I get that. I can't even with the yeah. So that's why, and I've said it a few times during this live stream, you know, like I just try to stick to the facts, try to walk, you know, a tight line with that, and always err on the side of respect. You know, but what you're saying there, J Lord, sociopath, that is not walking the tight line of facts. That is like, that's when the true crime community goes sideways. Mm-hmm. Oops. Yeah, I agree with that. Green Bandit, when you heard about the girl that, you know, he set up the security camera in her apartment, that is creepy. Yeah, I think he was warming up for his what was going to be bigger event, whether he knew it or not. I think he did. Yeah, just like your comment. I perceived it as one thing the first time, something different the second time, and what it really was not exactly either, right? So Cricket Moon says perception is also the Achilles, as exemplified by this case. And your previous comment. If someone types, yeah, right, it can be perceived as a positive or negative thing. Absolutely. Great point. So Agape Love says, Kelly, there are people who dedicate their lives to analytical data and human behavior in various situations. I've studied a lot of it. So much data available if they are watching crime sleuths. That's right. So much data available, man. So much data stats. There's lots of pie charts out there. I love it. I certainly agree. Too many creators capitalize on shit. Yes. Mm-hmm. Wait, I'm trying to understand this. G Lord says, I respect people that are honest and don't pull fast ones, of course. I've caught a lot and seen created a file on discrepancies in the first 2 weeks of new footage. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, but I feel yeah. I also like honesty and all that. That's weird. All right, my friends. Isn't bedtime? Well, I know you're all over the world. So wherever you are, I hope you have a great day or good night or whatever it is for you. But I've got to go to bed. So tomorrow, later today. Oh my gosh, Sunday, New York time at 9 p.m. There's going to be a Watts Live, and it's going to be about it's part of my Bella's Story series from a behavioral perspective. And then Monday night, I'm going to, because it's Memorial Day weekend, which is very important. And, to remember all the wonderful people who have done valiant and brave and wonderful and honest and all the good things in the world. I just realized that it was so tacky to say, and it's also What's the Obsession live stream weekend. So, but then there'll be a live stream Monday night, which will be the remaining material of the students' reaction to just all of the buzz about this case right now. Dateline, the guy that's called Dave. There's more information along those lines with the Emma Bailey and Xana and I'll get even more reaction tomorrow. So we're going to finish that up on Monday night. And thank you guys so much for being here. And thank you, moderators. You're wonderful. And let me know if you have any questions. Hope you enjoyed. Be safe. Come back tomorrow. And try to find the facts and be respectful. Like, what's the obsession, okay? Or maybe it's what's the obsession and more. Or what's the obsession? We've got to do something with that, though, right? What's the temperature in Texas, Gregory? So Susan says it's 2:30 for her. She's in Australia. Yeah. So here it is 1:14 a.m. Yeah, I know I feel you on that, J Lord. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna be putting out some Watts material that's gonna be members only. I do have a couple of things from the Idaho 4 case that are members only. There's like a video of Ethan Chapin golfing. People are saying, oh, it's not him. It's him. It's been verified to be him. It's like a rap video. It's like a, I don't know what the word is to use. I'm too old to find the right word to use for like a whatever kind of video it is. But yeah, just so you know, I just saw that Jeannie posted the membership link. I think there's like a membership. I think membership's like $2.99 or something. 90s during the day. That is high. Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Agape Love. Please do. Leave your DNA on the like button on the way out. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps the channel and it helps for more of our friends to see the live stream. It also helps to get the notifications to you next time something is coming up. So good night, Truth Seeker, and everyone else. I'm just going to go now. I'm going to be like, good night, Moon. Good night, Cat. Good night, Milk. You know that book? You know that book. It's like a kindergarten book. Oh. I'm so tired I can't even navigate my brand options. There we go. I'm really
There are more answers than you know.
each had multiple stab wounds. Some had defensive wounds, showing they fought with the attacker. And there was no sexual assault. County Coroner Kathy Mabbutt is describing the murders as personal.